Chapter 112. Take my 3 palms, good scolding. You are indeed worthy of being Qin Dingtian's son and my nephew. The men of the Qin family would rather die with their chests puffed out than live on their knees. Qin Laoxi's blood surged as he watched Qin Hao's heroism. You're just a lowly commoner. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Scram! The strong elder sent out a wave of energy and hit Qin Laoxi's body. Qin Laoxi was sent flying dozens of meters away. He rolled on the ground and did not get up. Father! Uncle! Laoxi! Qin Shilong's face was filled with tears. You bullied my grandson and even injured my son. You bunch of animals! As the ancestor of the Qin family, Qin Shilong was unable to protect his family. His heart was filled with guilt and helplessness. You beat up my uncle! Qin Hao's eyes turned red. Qin Laoxi was like a father who cared for and protected him. Yet, right under Qin Hao's nose, he was beaten to a pulp. So what if I beat up your uncle? I'll cripple your grandfather next. As he spoke, the strong elder sent out another wave of energy. With a muffled sound, Qin Shilong, who was caught off guard, was sent flying. Grandfather, ancestor, father! Qin Laoxi's eyes were red. I'll kill you all. You too. Another wave of energy was sent flying. Qin Laoxi was also sent flying. Do you see this? This is the result of being my enemy. This is the reason why I'm strong. This is just a small lesson. If you don't kneel down, I won't beat you up next. I'll kill you. The sturdy elder threatened Qin Hao fiercely. I'll say it again. You don't deserve it, Qin Hao said in a low voice. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, a wave of energy slammed into Qin Hao's back. It was as heavy as a mountain. At this moment, the sound of bones breaking could be heard in everyone's heart. The clothes on Qin Hao's shoulders were torn into pieces, and his body arched like a lobster. The pressure of a 3-star Yuan master caused the veins on Qin Hao's neck to bulge. No matter how hard he tried to resist, his knees were still sticking to the ground bit by bit. Repeat it for this old man one more time. Kneel or not. The strong elder roared. You are not worthy. Creak. The pressure on him increased once again. Traces of blood seeped out from Qin Hao's skin and gradually dyed his white clothes red. His legs made a grinding sound that made one's teeth ache and tremble incomparably. Get out of here, old man! The strong elder was furious. Qin Hao's bones were too damn hard. You are not worthy. Pung! The pressure increased again, as if another heavy mountain had fallen on Qin Hao's back. His boots exploded violently, and his bare feet created 2 deep pits in the ground. His body was already on the verge of collapse. Let's see how long you can last. Old man is going to die from anger. While the strong elder was furious, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He even admired Qin Hao a little. If it were a disciple of the Dan sect, even if he was a core disciple of the 5th layer of Yuan gathering tier, one look from him would probably be enough to scare him witless. However, this Qin Hao was able to withstand his pressure without any fear. The strong elder even felt that even if he crushed all the bones in Qin Hao's body, he would still not kneel. This made the strong elder feel deeply humiliated. He could not even subdue a little kid. Son of a bitch, come at me if you dare. Xiaogua was at his limit. Xiao Han, Qin Yu, and Zhuo Junchen also looked at the strong elder with murderous gazes. A bunch of ants. The strong elder could not stand the bloodshot eyes anymore and raised his hand again. Wait a minute. Qin Hao spoke in time. You finally can't take it anymore, right? The strong elder smiled and lowered his hand. It's not that I can't take it anymore. I'm just afraid that you'll bite my brothers. Qin Hao was afraid that the strong elder would kill Xiaogua and the others. Big brother! Xiaogua cried. Qin Hao was already powerless to protect himself. Young Master Qin Hao. Zhuo Junchen's heart ached as he knelt in front of Qin Hao. Muscular old man, how about we make a bet? Qin Hao asked while holding on. Bet? What right do you have to bet with old man? The strong elder said disdainfully. I'd like to see what he's betting on. Anyway, there's still plenty of time. What's the harm in betting with him? At this moment, the tall and thin elder spoke. He was afraid that Qin Hao would not be able to withstand the pressure and kneel in front of the strong elder. At that time, the spatial ring would be in his pocket. Alright, what are we betting on? The strong elder asked. 3 palms. Qin Hao gritted his teeth and said, I'll take 3 of your palms. If I die, you can take the spatial ring. This is our agreement. But if I take your palms, you'll immediately get out of Akita town. Alright. The strong elder was overjoyed. In this way, he would be justified in taking the spatial ring. As for whether Qin Hao would win? Win my ass. Unless the sun rose from the west. He would definitely be killed with 1 palm. Young master, you can't. Young master, you can't. Let's fight it out with them. Lu Yu and Wang Matzi were heartbroken. Even their ancestor was easily knocked to the ground. Yet, they had to rely on Qin Hao to protect the Qin family. This strong elder was a 3-star Yuan master. Even someone as ruthless as Qi Daxiong could not take a single palm from him. Qin Hao was only in the first layer of element gathering tier. What kind of gap was this? I don't think so either. You're too much of a bully. The tall and thin elder expressed his dissatisfaction. A 3-star Yuan master beating a child in the first layer of element gathering tier. Aren't you ashamed? I'm ashamed of you, Ba. The fat elder spat at the strong elder. Actually, he wanted to say that the old man should be the one to fight. In response, the strong elder only sneered. I'm ashamed? You're 4-star Yuan masters and 5-star Yuan masters. You're more ashamed than me. Come on. Qin Hao urged. All right. The strong elder dispersed the pressure on Qin Hao and a dazzling light condensed in his palm. The light was so dazzling that it was hard to open one's eyes. If you die, I won't live. Tears fell from Xiao Han's face, but at this moment she was smiling. Her smile was like a flower, making one's heart ache. In response, Qin Hao was touched. He got into a stance and prepared to take the first palm. Not to mention 3 palms, I'll beat you with 1. As he spoke, the strong elder sent out a palm. The dazzling light in his palm set off a monstrous gust of wind, transforming into a huge handprint midway. Pung! It pierced through Qin Hao's chest. The palm force passed through his chest and went through his back. A fountain of blood gushed out from Qin Hao's mouth, and his hair was in a mess. At this crucial moment, he activated the golden bell protection of the Great Void Cauldron without hesitation. With Qin Hao's strength that was equivalent to the 3rd layer of element gathering tier, after activating the golden bell protection, he could withstand the attack of a 9th layer of element gathering tier. This was also the limit of the golden bell protection. In reality, Qin Hao really did withstand the first palm. Although he looked very scary, his chest was penetrated by the palm force. In reality, he wasn't seriously injured. The power of the palm force was severely weakened by the golden bell protection, and Qin Hao was only slightly shaken. But this slight shaken caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. I took it, let's take the second palm. Qin Hao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and straightened his back. Boom! Chapter 113. To kill or to save. This is impossible. It must be an illusion. The strong elder pinched his thigh. Ouch! My jade legs hurt. It wasn't an illusion. You didn't eat breakfast, right? Your attacks are so weak. The tall and skinny elder curled his lip. It was really embarrassing that a 3-star general didn't manage to kill Qin Hao. It's so soft that it's like touching a woman. If you really can't do it, then let me do it. The fat elder mocked. Bullshit, call your mother out and let this muscular old man touch her. She'll definitely explode. Xiaogua cursed loudly. Which woman could withstand such a forceful touch? Little brat, this old man will kill you. The fat elder was scolded until he was in a complete mess. Qin Hao must have a protective talisman left behind by Dan Xian. I was too careless. The second palm will take your life. The strong elder felt very embarrassed. That palm strike just now had only contained the power of the 9th layer of element gathering tier, but it was enough to kill Qin Hao. However, he did not consider that the Pill Profound Society might have left behind some sort of protective talisman. Even so, the first palm strike had shattered Qin Hao's trump card, and he had no more tricks up his sleeve. In fact, this was indeed the case. The Golden Bell protection was currently Qin Hao's strongest trump card, and he had used it in the first palm strike. Next, he could only release the Red Lotus Fire in his spatial ring. Once he released the Red Lotus Fire, even Qin Hao himself would not be able to control it. Once the Red Lotus Fire appeared, it would definitely be an apocalyptic scene. However, he had no other choice. The only thing he could do was to perish together with the 3 old men in front of him. This was the only way for Xiaogua and Xiao Han to survive. On the other side, the burly elder made his move again. A resplendent ball of light appeared above his head. The yuan qi around him raged wildly, causing the ground to shake. Countless small rocks floated into the air. This palm strike was extremely powerful. Die! With a roar, the strong elder threw the ball of light at Qin Hao. The ball of light turned into a wash-basin-sized palm print midway, and wherever it passed, it lifted up the stone floor. Qin Hao was also prepared to release the Red Lotus Fire. No! A beautiful figure rushed out from the crowd. Xiao Han hugged Qin Hao tightly and used her back to receive the devastating palm print. No! Qin Hao's eyes were bloodshot. It was already too late for him to stop it. He could only watch as the palm print got closer and closer to Xiao Han's back. 1. At this critical moment, a white light screen rose from Xiao Han's body. It was like a wall in front of Qin Hao and Xiao Han. Accompanied by a deafening roar, the strong elder shattered the light screen, and the palm energy also disappeared. What's the situation? The strong elder was dumbfounded. Even though this palm had shattered the clothes on Xiao Han's back, leaving a bloody mess on his back, it was a horrible sight to behold. However, Qin Hao was completely unharmed. This was illogical. The tall and skinny elder and the fat elder's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. The strong elder's palm had the power of a 2-star Yuan master. Qin Hao and Xiao Han should have been smashed to pieces. They should have died a few hundred times. In the end, it was blocked by the sudden appearance of the light screen. It's the jade pendant. Qin Hao saw a dot of light flash on Xiao Han's neck, and then it disappeared. It was the crescent jade pendant. It was the pendant that had saved Xiao Han and Qin Hao's lives. Even so, Xiao Han was severely unconscious. His back was covered in blood. A mouthful of blood even stained Qin Hao's clothes. Even though it wasn't fatal, he was almost crippled by the strong elder. What the hell was that? The tall and skinny elder finally regained his senses. He was extremely shocked. Just now I seemed to feel the spiritual energy of a numinous treasure moving. The fat elder said. Elders, to be honest, that girl has a mysterious jade pendant on her. The jade pendant must have saved them. Aya, it's about to poison me. Hurry up and save old man. At this moment, Zhuo Wentian, who was rolling on the ground due to the poison, howled hoarsely. Mysterious jade pendant? The strong elder was stunned. Then, he laughed sinisterly. Old man must have the jade pendant and the interspatial ring. There's still a palm strike left. Qin Hao, you little bastard, die. As he spoke, he flew up and unleashed his full power as a 3-star Yuan master. He slammed his palm toward Qin Hao's head. Then let's die together. Qin Hao hugged the unconscious Xiao Han. His heart ached, but he held his head high and took the initiative to meet the attack. This scene was extremely tragic. Xiaogua was in tears. If it was me, would I give up my life for the person I love without hesitation? The blood Kirin looked at Qin Hao with a complicated expression. Then, she laughed. I won't give up my life for a pervert. After saying that, she stabbed her sword toward the strong elder's back. That was all she could do for Qin Hao. Perhaps she would be killed by him instead. If I don't die, I will cut you into 1,000 pieces to avenge Boss Qin Hao and Little Big Sister. Xiaogua's palm was covered in bloody scars. At this moment, the strong elder's poisonous palm strike was already in front of Qin Hao. Whoosh! A monstrous blood qi emerged from Qin Hao's body like an octopus spitting out ink. This blood qi was extremely thick and had come too suddenly. This blood qi was not unfamiliar to Qin Hao. It was the god-fiend blood essence in his body. This drop of blood essence was originally in the Great Void Cauldron. Later, the Great Void Cauldron transformed into a spatial ring, and the blood essence was left in Qin Hao's heart. Just as he was about to release the red lotus fire to take the enemy down with him, the god-fiend blood essence in his body awakened. In reality, the strong elder's first strike had already stimulated the blood essence. The second strike had completely awakened the blood essence. As if it had sensed its master's danger, the god-fiend blood essence released a powerful force in an attempt to raise Qin Hao's cultivation level. However, this force was extremely powerful. Qin Hao could not withstand it at all. Thus, the blood qi seeped through his skin and seeped out of his body. In the end, it was all for naught. At this moment, the strong elder's palm landed on Qin Hao's head, forcing the blood qi back in. This scene was bizarre to the extreme. It was as if Qin Hao had gone mad while cultivating, and the strong elder had used up all his internal energy to suppress Qin Hao. Thus, with this strike, Qin Hao's cultivation level shot up like a rocket. Second layer of element gathering tier. Third layer of element gathering tier. Fourth layer of element gathering tier. Fifth layer of element gathering tier. Fifth layer peak stage. This powerful blood essence had raised Qin Hao's cultivation level by almost 5 layers. It only stopped when Qin Hao could no longer withstand it. This scene once again shocked the tall and skinny elder and the fat elder. Not only did Qin Hao not die, his strength was still increasing rapidly. What the hell is this? The tall and thin elder was sweating profusely. That ball of blood qi that suddenly appeared gave him the urge to kneel down. Is old 3 killing or saving? The fat elder was dumbfounded. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and save old man. The strong elder let out a hoarse voice. His body was balanced in midair, and one of his hands was still on Qin Hao's head. However, his internal energy was involuntarily sucked into Qin Hao's body. Every time Qin Hao's strength increased, the strong elder's cultivation level would drop a little. Now, he had dropped from a 3-star Yuan Master to a 2-star Yuan Master. Chapter 114. Chapter 114 Big Brother Log Attack. The tall and thin elder and the fat elder immediately rushed towards Qin Hao. Open! Qin Hao shouted in a deep voice. He took the initiative to sever his connection with the god-fiend blood essence. The strong elder was sent flying into the air. At the same time, the blood Kirin swung its sword. It sliced through the elder's buttocks and sliced out a piece of flesh the size of a hand. The piece of meat fell to the ground and even bounced a little. Ow! Old man's butt groove. The strong elder howled. He never thought that there would be an assassin. His body smashed towards the tall and skinny elder. The tall and thin elder and the fat elder immediately stopped, almost hitting the strong elder who was flying over. 3 palms. I've received all of them, Qin Hao said while holding the unconscious Xiao Han. At this moment, the god-fiend blood essence once again slumbered in his heart. The strong elder was speechless. Then, his face was filled with shame and humiliation. As a 3-star Yuan Master, he was unable to kill Qin Hao, a mere cultivator in the first layer of element gathering tier, with 3 consecutive palm strikes. Not only that, He had also helped Qin Hao level up, but he had also dropped a realm because of it. "Young master, hold on," Lu Yu stuttered. The entire place was in an uproar, erupting into earth-shattering shouts. The guards of the Qin clan looked up to the sky and wept. The Qin family was saved. The young master's weak strength was able to withstand 3 palm strikes from a 3-star Yuan master. This was simply unbelievable. The excitement of the guards could not be expressed in words. "You sucked away one of the old man's stars. You and I cannot live under the same sky. I will skin you alive and pull out your tendons," the strong elder cried and wiped his tears as he shamelessly rushed towards Qin Hao. "You've received his 3 palms, but you haven't received the old man's 3 palms. Die." Not allowing for any explanation, the tall and skinny elder flew up like a great rock and pressed down on Qin Hao's head with his palm. Beneath his palm, Yuan Qi surged. And the old man's 3 palms. The fat elder attacked at the same time and even used a black-grade Yuan skill. The green light in his palm was extremely sharp. Qin Hao had already received 3 palm strikes. However, they had collectively gone back on their word. "A bunch of old bastards." Zhuo Junchen was infuriated. "Run, young master." After saying that, he pounced on the tall and skinny elder. "Big brother, run." Xiaogua pounced on the fat elder. "If you have the chance, remember to burn some paper money for me." The blood Kirin hid in the air again. Its target was the elder's heart. "A bunch of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Those who stop me will die." The strong elder was so angry that he lost his mind. His roar caused Zhuo Junchen, Xiaogua, and the blood Kirin to fall to the ground. Blood gushed out of their mouths. At this time, the tall and skinny elder and the fat elder had already rushed in front of Qin Hao. Their palms fell mercilessly. Qin Hao smiled bitterly in his heart. Even though he had forcefully broken through to the 5th layer of Element Gathering Tier, he was still unable to break through. A martial artist in the 5th tier of Element Gathering Tier could even easily kill someone like Shihaoqi. However, he was no match for the tall and skinny elder and the fat elder. These two were 5-star Yuan masters and 4-star Yuan masters. At this critical moment, creak, there was a strong clawing sound. The 2 palms that were about to strike Qin Hao's face were caught by someone. This person had appeared out of thin air and stood in front of Qin Hao. This person was very skinny, but he was extremely tall. He was about the same height as Ren Taizhu. His expression was very stiff, and he did not smile. His gaze was a little dull. On his back was a huge sword. The sword was the size of a door. It was terrifying. "Who are you?" The tall and skinny elder's expression changed drastically. He and the fat elder immediately retreated and distanced themselves from this person. This person had easily caught their palms. The strength of his strength could be seen clearly. Looking at the familiar and skinny figure, Xiaogua's face was covered in tears. "Eldest senior brother." His tears flowed like a flood. He felt so wrong that he could not stop crying. This man with the huge sword was Log, who was sent down the mountain by Drunkard to find Xiaogua. Senior brother Log? Qin Hao was also stunned. He had heard Xiaogua say that he had a dull-witted eldest senior brother who did not know how to act cool or pick up girls. He was lucky enough to meet him today. Moreover, it seemed that Log's strength was a little too shocking. Log? The tall and skinny elder was also stunned. They seemed to have heard of this name before. He seemed to be someone's disciple, but they could not remember at the moment. "You went down the mountain without permission. Master is very worried. You have to come back with me," Log said stiffly to Xiaogua. "Yes, but these 3 old thieves killed my father and caused my big brother's family to be destroyed. I want them dead." Xiaogua pointed at the tall and skinny elder and shouted at the top of his lungs. Log did not say anything else. He quietly looked at Xiaogua. Through the short exchange just now, Log could tell that he was about as strong as the tall and skinny elder. If they fought one-on-one, Log had a 70% chance of killing him. However, with the addition of the fat elder, the chances of victory were very slim. Not only that, the other party also had a 2-star Yuan master. Against these 3 people at the same time, forget about winning, Log might very well be killed instead. Alright. Log did not cower in the slightest, nor did he underestimate his opponent. Instead, he solemnly took the huge sword from his back. I will remember this favor. Qin Hao was greatly moved. I am not doing this for you. I am doing this for Junior Brother. Even if I die in battle, I must fulfill Junior Brother's request. After saying this, Log raised his huge sword above his head. Xiaogua had the great strength ox demon body. His future was limitless, and he was the drunkard sect leader's favorite. Log could die in battle, but Xiaogua could not lose a single hair. Moreover, there were only 3 people in the entire Heavenly Fist sect: the drunkard sect leader, the eldest disciple Log, and Xiaogua. Log regarded Xiaogua as his brother. At this moment, the entire sky of Akita town changed. Dark clouds covered the sky, and lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The ground shook violently under Log's huge sword. A 5-star Yuan master. The tall and skinny elder had an extremely solemn expression. Log had revealed his true ability the moment he attacked. Such a powerful enemy did not allow the tall and skinny elder to be careless. However, he was not afraid. Who are you trying to scare with such a huge sword? Old man also has a sword. The tall and skinny elder could tell that Log's huge sword was not to be underestimated. It was a rare high-grade weapon. As he spoke, he also took out the sword that he carried with him. It was a sword that was 3 feet long and as clear as water. However, its power was extremely shocking. In terms of material, it was even better than Log's huge sword. It was infinitely close to a lethal weapon. Good sword. Even Qin Hao could not help but exclaim in admiration. Also admire old man's scimitar. The fat elder lifted his robe and pulled out a scimitar from his crotch. It was a mid-grade weapon. Come and praise old man's big iron hammer. The strong elder snorted and pulled out a one-handed heavy hammer from behind his back. It was also a mid-grade weapon. Instantly, Log's expression became even more solemn. This battle was undoubtedly an unprecedented challenge for him. Cloud destruction, thunder explosion. The huge sword was swung over his head and the wind was raging. Log attracted a bolt of thunder from the sky and slashed down on the ground like Mount Tai. The ground was split into 2. A thick crack appeared under the huge sword and blasted straight toward the tall and skinny elder. Break for me. As his blood boiled, the tall and skinny elder drew a clear stream under his sword and blocked in front of him, trying to block Log's domineering attack. Boom! Chapter 115. Activate the triangular array. After one move, the tall and skinny elder realized that he was no match for Log. That explosive strike just now had even caused a bolt of lightning to wrap around his body, numbing him completely. He definitely wouldn't be able to block Log's second strike. Skinny, don't be afraid. Go. The fat elder raised his hand and threw his scimitar. The scimitar flew towards Yuan Mu's neck with a cold glint. Log had no choice but to give up on chasing after the tall and skinny elder and take the initiative to dodge. He was an offensive warrior. Although the power of his giant sword was astonishing, he was not good at fighting with agility. When the fat elder joined the battle, as expected, he immediately trapped Log. Have another taste of old man's hammer. The strong elder naturally saw that Log was in a tight spot, so he raised his hammer and smashed it down. A bunch of old dogs. First, they killed my father. Then, they destroyed my big brother's family. Now, they're shamelessly attacking senior brother Log. They've gone too far. They've gone too far. Sayogwa's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His eyes were as red as a bull in heat. A crazy power began to wreak havoc in his body. The first seal of the Herculean demon body had been undone ahead of time. At this moment, his weak body underwent a huge change. Sayogwa's strong chest muscles bulged out of his clothes, and they were as hard as steel. His height of more than 1.5 meters grew to nearly 1.8 meters with a ting sound. Furthermore, 2 sharp fangs were protruding from Sayogwa's mouth. His hair was messy and he looked extremely horrifying. In the blink of an eye, the cute little Shota had transformed into a demon king. This toppled everyone's understanding. They all stopped what they were doing and felt their hairs stand on end. "You've gone too far, you've gone too far." Sayogwa had been stimulated by the ox demon body to the point that he had lost his reason. His mind was no longer clear, but he still remembered it deeply in his heart. It was that muscular old man who sent Shi Daxiong flying with a single palm strike. Then, he wantonly sent Qin Hao's 2 uncles and grandfather flying with one palm strike after another. Therefore, Sayogwa went straight to the strong elder without hesitation. "Little Melon, don't wake up." Qin Hao was shocked and his heart turned cold. He was well aware of the painful price he would have to pay to unseal the ox demon physique ahead of time. The price was very likely that Sayogwa would explode and die. Even if he managed to keep his life, he would become a cripple. And all of this was forced by the 3 old men. "You caused my junior brother to release his seal prematurely. All of you deserve to die." Log was enraged. The seal took Master a total of 8 years. During these 8 years, he did not do anything. Every day, he carefully stabilized the seal on little junior brother. But now, the 3 old dogs had forced him to break it ahead of time. Heavenly Dao Fist, with a roar like a furious dragon, Log swung his sword and blasted the fat elder away. Then, he used the Heavenly Fist Sect's ultimate martial art, the Heavenly Dao Fist, a high-grade mystic class fist technique. This fist, condensed with the full power of a 5-star Yuan master, sent sand and pebbles flying. Cracks appeared in the space as it rained down on the tall, skinny elder. Log was ready to risk his life. On the other side, when the strong elder saw Sayogwa running towards him, he screamed in fright. Sayogwa's appearance was too terrifying. His muscles were many times more majestic than the strong elder's. He was like a small Vajra. "Don't come over, kid. This old man will smash you to death with one strike of his hammer," the sturdy elder shouted wildly. Sayogwa's eyes were still bloodshot. He muttered, "You've gone too far," as he walked over. "Die." Under the intense fear, the strong elder raised his hammer and smashed it on Sayogwa's head. Clang! A cluster of sparks scattered. Sayogwa didn't lose a single strand of hair. On the contrary, the hammer in the strong elder's hand bent. Heavens, what the hell is this? The strong elder was on the verge of collapse. He could sense that Sayogwa's strength had reached the level of a 1-star Yuan master. However, against the full power of a 2-star Yuan master, it couldn't break through the defense of the Herculean bull devil body. The strong elder even felt that even if he recovered to the peak of a 3-star Yuan master, he wouldn't be able to cause any harm to Sayogwa. At this moment, the strong elder was terrified. He swung the hammer in his hand without any regard for his life. Wave after wave of green energy was thrown at Sayogwa. Sayogwa was no longer human. He was a demon, a devil. He was simply a transformer. Ha ha! Let the storm come even more fiercely. You won't be able to survive anyway. Sayogwa covered his head with his arms. He was like a warrior charging through a hail of bullets. Even though his footsteps were chaotic and the wounds on his arms were increasing, he was getting closer and closer to the strong elder. Pfff. He spat out a mouthful of blood. "Old man can't take it anymore. That kid with the sword is crazy." The tall and skinny elder was sent flying more than 10 meters high by Log's punch. His clothes were shredded and even his underwear was gone. He hugged his crotch in shame. Zhuang Zhuang, come over quickly. Activate the triangular formation with us. A layer of the fat elder's scalp was scraped off by Log. His face was covered in blood. He quickly called for the strong elder to activate the triangular formation. This kid is a devil. I don't want to see him again in my life. The strong elder was already scared out of his wits by Xiaogua. He immediately joined up with the fat elder. Triangular formation. Open for me. The tall and skinny elder roared. The three of them shone with a dazzling light at the same time. They stood in a triangular formation on the ground and spun quickly. In an instant, a pyramid-shaped cover covered their heads, firmly protecting the three of them. Even if you activate the rectangular formation, you'll still have to pay with your life for my junior brother. Yuan Mu brandished his greatsword and chopped it down. Boom! There was a deafening explosion that soared into the sky. That illusory pyramid burst forth with a layer of violent light, directly shaking Luo Mu away. Luo Mu was shaken to the point that the web between his thumb and forefinger ruptured, and fresh blood flowed out. His sword couldn't even move the formation at all. Ha ha! The triangular formation can withstand the attack of a 7-star Yuan master. Don't waste your energy, kid. It can't be broken. The tall and skinny elder was laughing wildly in the middle of the formation with his buttocks exposed. His expression was extremely arrogant. But we can't get out either. The fat elder panicked. Their lives were saved, but they couldn't get out of the triangular formation. Otherwise, they would be chopped to death by Log. Quick, summon the mighty sect leader. Ask him to come and take us home. The strong elder cried. That's right. Ask the sect leader to come and take us home. The fat elder took out a jade scroll from his crotch and muttered, Happy Yang Yang, beautiful Yang Yang, red big wolf, gray big wolf, urgent as the law orders. Sect leader, I am Fei Fei, I am Fei Fei. The enemy is extremely ferocious. Akita Town, send reinforcements quickly, send reinforcements quickly. After chanting, he crushed the jade slip. Ha ha! In less than an hour, the sect leader will come and save us. You bastards are dead. I want the entire Akita Town to be destroyed. The tall and skinny elder covered his crotch and roared. I also want the sect leader to cut off all the muscles of that muscular kid and feed them to the dogs. The strong elder was extremely vicious. Including that little bastard Qin Hao's spatial ring and that little girl's jade pendant. They all belong to the pill sect. Prepare to die. Ha ha ha. Chapter 116. How to hurt you. How dare you be so arrogant? Log once again slashed his sword at the array, slashing out again and again. His crazed appearance was like a lion that had lost its calf. Unfortunately, his palm was covered in blood from the impact, and he still couldn't break the triangular formation. I'll support it. Stunned, Xiaogua held his head and slammed into the formation, right into the position of the strong elder. He had to kill the muscular old man inside. 1. The formation shook violently. As expected, Xiaogua was also sent flying. After falling to the ground, he fell unconscious. His body instantly shrank back to its original size, and his face was incomparably pale. However, under this collision, the triangular formation almost collapsed. The muscular elder inside even spat out a mouthful of blood. He was so shocked that his face turned pale. The triangular formation that even Log could not break was almost destroyed by Xiaogua. Fortunately, Xiaogua was also knocked unconscious. Where is the eye of the formation? Qin Hao was stunned. The place where Xiaogua had crashed into was the weakest point of the formation, and the strong elder was guarding the eye of the formation. Take care of her. Qin Hao tossed Xiao Han to the blood kirin, then pulled out the purple meteorite sword from his space ring. The sword was placed in front of his chest. At this moment, Qin Hao's long hair danced in the wind. He ran his fingers across the sword, and an icy chill spread throughout his body. "How dare you bully my family? You hurt my uncle. You force my brother to become a cripple. Even if you have 10,000 dog lives, you won't be able to pay for it." Immediately, Yuan Qi rushed madly from all parts of his body to Qin Hao's fingers, and the purple meteorite sword in his hand exploded with unprecedented brilliance. Under this brilliance, the broken stone slabs on the ground began to tremble uneasily. He raised his head and shouted, "Senior Brother Log, help me! Heavenly Tao Furious Dragon Strike!" Log immediately stopped chopping at the array, sensing Qin Hao's abnormality. Qin Hao seemed to have seen through the weakness of the triangular formation. Log gathered all his strength into his final punch, sending a dragon-shaped blast of energy hurtling towards Qin Hao. He wanted to use his power to help Qin Hao. Even Log himself didn't know why he did this. He was clearly dozens of times stronger than Qin Hao. It was obvious that Qin Hao was only in the 5th tier of element gathering tier, and was extremely weak. But in his heart, Yuan Mu trusted him for some reason. This was very contradictory and very strange. Roar! A nearly 10-meter-long dragon-shaped stream of energy rolled down from the sky, sweeping Qin Hao up and rushing toward the triangular formation ahead. Driven by this dragon-shaped chi, Qin Hao was like a high-speed drill. His purple meteorite sword shone with a dazzling light as it pierced towards the elder's position. This sword attack was stacked with the heaven-grade golden finger. This was the purple meteorite sword's most powerful strike after transforming into a lethal weapon. This sword strike carried Qin Hao's monstrous fury. These 3 old men must die. Pucci! Qin Hao's entire body pierced through the triangular formation, taking one of the elder's arms with him. The incomparably sturdy triangular formation was like a punctured balloon, collapsing before everyone's eyes. This formation was said to be able to withstand the attacks of a 7-star Yuan master. A formation that even Log couldn't break. A formation that made the elder extremely confident. Under Qin Hao's sword, it couldn't even withstand a single blow. I'm really tired. Qin Hao knelt on the ground with one leg, leaning on the purple meteorite sword as he breathed heavily. From the beginning of the year until now, he had been the one in charge of the Qin family. He was really tired and wanted to sleep, but he couldn't sleep, because there were still many people's lives in Qin Hao's hands. Only he could pull Xiaogua and the others back from the brink of death. This is impossible, this is simply impossible. A mere 5th tier of element gathering tier broke the triangular formation. The triangular formation could withstand 80% of sect leaders' power. That little bastard Qin Hao isn't human either, he's a bunch of freaks monsters. My arm, miserable cries rang out from within the formation. The elder's arm was even chopped off. Then, an even more despairing scene occurred. Log's huge sword had already landed on their heads. This time, they couldn't escape. Whoosh! A streak of light streaked across the sky. This was a human figure, and his terrifying speed was simply indescribable. The momentum was so great that it caused the earth to tremble. This person was heading straight for the location of the battle. With such a terrifying momentum, it must be sect leader. He's here to kill you all. You're all dead. Sect leader seems to have come a little too quickly. I've just crushed the Jade Scroll. This fully shows how much sect leader loves us. He's willing to sacrifice his life to save us. You bunch of ants, hurry up and kneel under old man's crotch and call him ancestor. Hand over your spatial ring. The 3 old men instantly became mighty, arrogant, and unscrupulous. However, their arrogance, power, and unscrupulousness turned into deep fear in the next second. Their hearts also fell into a bottomless abyss. Buzz. The powerful figure stopped beside Qin Hao. Without saying anything, He pressed his palm on Qin Hao's back and channeled his vital energy into Qin Hao's body. He was Dan Xian. Dan Xian glanced at the battle scene. There were corpses everywhere, all of them belonging to the Qin family's guards. Qin Shilong, Qin Laosi, and Qin Laosan were lying on the ground, their fates unknown. They were Qin Hao's relatives, and they had once entertained Dan Xian at Qin Manor. In the distance, Dan Xian unexpectedly discovered Qi Daxiong. Qi Daxiong fell into a pile of rocks, his body covered in wounds. As for Xiaogua, Dan Xian's eyes immediately turned bloodshot. The oath he had once made rang in his ears. Be my disciple and you will be rich. Be my disciple and you will be surrounded by beautiful women, even the daughter of the sect leader. Be my disciple and you will have a transcendent status. No one will dare touch you. But what if someone bullies my family? There is nothing to say, I will slap them to death. The corpses on the ground were undoubtedly a series of ruthless slaps to Dan Xian's face. How did they hurt you? Dan Xian asked hoarsely. They forced me to kneel and hand over my spatial artifact. I refused, so they hit me 3 times. Qin Hao said. How did you hit me 3 times? Just give me 3 hits like this. Qin Hao pushed his palms forward, meaning to hit him 3 times. How dare you? Dan Xian was furious, and he roared, shaking the tall, thin elder's eardrums until blood flowed out. Brother Dan Xian, listen to me, the truth your ass. Dan Xian turned around and slapped him. Puff, the tall, thin elder flew 10 meters into the air. His naked body was covered in cracks, and he fell to the ground like a bloody man. In front of Dan Xian, a 5-star Yuan master could not withstand a single slap. Brother Dan Xian, we are elders of the Dan sect. Show some respect. Respect my ass. Dan Xian sent out another palm strike, blasting towards the fat elder. A loud bang was heard. Chapter 117. A heavy slap to the face. Old dog Dan Xian, how dare you not put our sect leader Old Demon Black Mountain in your eyes? The strong elder had no choice but to reveal the name of Dan sect's sect leader. Even if the Old Demon Black Mountain comes, it's useless. Those who touch my disciple die. Dan Xian's Yuan Qi landed on the strong elder's body, causing his clothes to fly and his body to be covered in blood. Once, these 3 people relied on their strength to force Qin Hao to take 3 hits. Qin Hao withstood all of them with his weak strength, and did not even cry out in pain. Now, Dan Xian returned the 3 hits to them, causing them to be unable to get up. They were crying for their parents. This was retribution. Let me ask you, in the entire Qin clan, who could bring about such glory? Young Master Hao is the only one. Only young Master Hao. Only young Master Hao. Lu Yu and Wang Mozi's blood boiled. The Qin Mansion's guards were extremely proud. Even if they died in battle, it was worth it. Senior Dan Xian, save my junior brother, please save him. Log was not good at expressing himself. He knelt in front of Dan Xian and kept kowtowing. Give Xiao Gua a vitality pill. Wait for me to finish off those 3 dogs. Dan Xian handed an expensive vitality pill to Log. This pill had been preserved for many years, and was not refined by Dan Xian. This Xiaogua obviously came to Akita town because of Qin Hao and seemed to have touched some taboo. The situation was not optimistic. No matter how precious the vitality pill was, he had to give it to Dan Xian. Old man, you came too late. Qin Hao's face was filled with fatigue. When the annual meeting started, Qin Hao secretly crushed the jade slip that Dan Xian gave him. Because of Zhuo Wentian's words, Qin Hao could not help but be vigilant. Zhuo Wentian's words were, "What can Dan Xian do to me?" Not to mention a trash nominal elder. Even if the heavens came, they would not be able to change the situation. Qin Hao believed that Rentaiju and Shihaoqi were not Zhuo Wentian's real trump cards. There must be someone even more powerful backing him up. Otherwise, Zhuo Wentian would not be so arrogant. But after crushing the jade slip, an entire morning passed before Dan Xian finally arrived. This made Dan Xian's face turn red, and he felt extremely sullen. In fact, as soon as the jade slip shattered in the morning, he had sensed it. At that time, he was ready to leave for Akita town. Unexpectedly, Chen Wanqin's cold disease broke out. Speaking of which, it was all Mute's fault. Mute had clearly promised to meet Chen Wanqin in Heaven's Wall City 2 months later, but he had stood her up. Chen Wanqin waited for him for a whole month. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore. Her cold broke out and she was carried back to Fengli Temple. At this time, Qin Hao crushed the jade slip. Fortunately, Mute still had some conscience and had left behind a list of precious medicinal ingredients. The herbs on the list were all available in the alchemy room, and Dan Xian immediately refined a pill. This pill was only able to suppress Chen Wanqin's cold illness. Therefore, Dan Xian was under a lot of pressure. Phoenix Glass Palace's sect master grabbed onto him and refused to let him leave. He had to treat Chen Wanqin no matter what. If it wasn't for Dan Xian going crazy and knocking out a tooth of Fengli Temple's sovereign, he wouldn't have come. It's my fault, I will make it up to you, but for now let me cripple those 3 old dogs first. The more Dan Xian thought about it, the angrier he became. The 3 old men could cause trouble at any time, but they just had to cause trouble at this time. Brother Dan Xian, listen to me, actually, your father shouldn't have created you to harm people. Dan Xian did not give the tall thin elder a chance to speak. He rushed up and slapped him. Brother Dan Xian, don't hit him. It's indeed our fault, but Qin Hao didn't lose a single hair. It would have been better if the fat elder didn't say anything. As soon as he opened his mouth, he immediately attracted Dan Xian's attention. And you! Dan Xian threw away the tall and thin elder, grabbed the fat elder's hair, and once again slapped the fat elder's head. Dan Xian, stop! Your disciple didn't lose a single hair, and he even sucked away one of my stars. Motherf *Ker, I dropped a realm. The strong elder wanted to cry but had no tears. You Motherf *Ker deserve it. Dan Xian tossed the fat elder aside and slapped the strong elder's face. If I don't cripple the 3 of you today, I'll let down all the heroic spirits lying on the ground. The Qin family really did lose a lot of people, it was a heavy loss. All of this was caused by the Dan sect. They shouldn't have supported Zhuo Wentian. But at this time in the sky, there was a sudden gust of wind. A ball of light as fast as a meteor flashed over. It was so powerful that it was even more powerful than when Dan Xian came. This scene made the tall thin elder want to howl in excitement. Our sovereign, old demon Black Mountain, is here. Dan Xian, you dog, stop. Be careful you don't get beaten to death by our sovereign. Hurry up and tell your dog disciple to hand over his interspatial ring to heal the wound in my heart. Not only that, you have to give me your Sumeru pouch as well. My arm is gone. The 3 of them instantly became arrogant. They cursed at Dan Xian as they spoke. The strong elder threatened to take Qin Hao's interspatial ring. They didn't even want to let Dan Xian's Sumeru pouch go. Dan Xian only snorted and quietly waited for the figure to fall from the sky. 1. A surge of yuan qi blew the sand and stones on the ground, and the figure in the sky landed on the ground. At this moment, the tall thin elder's eyes widened. He felt as if he was struck by lightning and a chill ran down his spine. This person wasn't old demon Black Mountain, but, ha ha ha. Old man came down the mountain to find his disciple, but a strong wind blew in front of him. I was wondering why it was so familiar, so it's old demon Dan Xian. This was a short old man. The old man's body was extremely dirty and full of patches. He looked the same as Dan Xian. They were both sloppy old men. The only difference was that there was a wine gourd hanging from this person's waist. It was the sect leader of the Heavenly Fist sect who came down the mountain to find Xiaogua. Drunkard sensed Dan Xian's aura and came down to greet him. As he walked, he suddenly stopped and found a person lying in front of him. This person's face was completely red, and he was rolling on the ground while holding his stomach. It was obvious that he had been poisoned by some kind of flame poison. It was Zhuo Wentian, who was about to be poisoned to death. A good dog doesn't block the way. Drunkard twisted his butt, and the gourd on his waist flew out with a "so" sound, hitting Zhuo Wentian's head, causing his head to bleed. Zhuo Wentian rolled out like a tortoise shell. Ha ha! Wonderful, wonderful! Drunkard was overjoyed as he walked in front of Dan Xian. Look at you as a pill master, you came to the secular world to stir up trouble. The corpses on the ground were all killed by you, right? I didn't kill them, Dan Xian said with a cold face. If it wasn't you, then who was it? Drunkard stared. At this moment, he noticed 3 old men with naked buttocks. He couldn't help but laugh. Why are there 3 old dogs from the Dan sect, ha ha? Did you fight with them? They beat up my disciple. Dan Xian was furious. Fortunately, it was your disciple who was beaten up, not mine. Drunkard's sect leader was pleased with himself, but then his expression changed greatly. He saw the log. Chapter 118. Get down here. I'll *CK his father Qin. Who was it that injured my disciple so badly? The drunkard wailed loudly and ran towards Qi Xiaogua while pulling up his pants. His body was filled with yuan qi as he desperately sent it into Xiaogua's body. Even so, Xiaogua's complexion did not improve at all. His face was pale and cold. Who was it that did this? The drunkard's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. As he roared, his spit landed on Log's face. Log did not know what to say. He angrily pointed at the skinny elder. Thump! The skinny elder's heart jumped to his throat. No wonder Log's name was so familiar. So he was the drunkard's disciple. But the skinny and short Log from back then was now so strong. The skinny elder was clearly shocked. Then he despaired. This Xiaogua was clearly the drunkard's disciple. And he was clearly a disciple that was even more precious than Log. He suddenly thought of the rumor that 8 years ago, the drunkard had taken in a disciple. This disciple had a special physique that was even more important than the drunkard's life. Drunkard sect leader. We gentlemen use our words and not our fists. We need to remain calm. Come, take a deep breath. Let's shake hands and talk slowly. I'll hold your mother's black hair. The drunkard rushed forward and slapped the skinny elder's mouth. He was even more vicious than a Dan Xian. He had begged his grandparents to take in the great strength ox demon physique. He had done nothing for 8 years except to stabilize the seal every day. He was afraid it would break if he held it in his hand, afraid it would melt if he held it in his mouth. You broke my seal as soon as we met. The drunkard wanted to kill someone at this moment. In an instant, the slaps did not stop. The skinny elder's broken teeth jumped out of his mouth like corn grains. He was beaten so badly that it was unbearable to look at. Drunkard sect leader. Actually, we did not know he was your disciple. We just had 100 guts. You're still fucking talking? The drunkard grabbed the skinny elder's hair and continued to slap him. In the blink of an eye, the tall and skinny elder was beaten into a pig's head. Drunkard, show some respect. We are the 3 elders of the Dan sect. The fat elder hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. Respect? I'll respect you right now. The drunkard shouted that he was very respectful, but his actions were not graceful at all. He kicked the fat elder's face, causing his mouth to become crooked. How dare you? Aren't you afraid of the old demon of the Black Mountain, old demon Mount Huang? What old demon Mount Tai? Even if a colorful demon comes, I'll still beat you 3 bastards to death. The drunkard raised his foot and stomped on the crotch of the strong elder who had spoken. The 2 big balls were instantly crushed. The strong elder was in so much pain that his neck stretched out more than a foot, and his eyes were as wide as copper bells. Before he could cry out, He was slapped by the drunkard and almost choked to death. This fight lasted for a full hour. It was an earth-shattering fight that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The three old men's throats were hoarse from shouting. They were even more miserable than pigs being slaughtered. It was as if a little girl was being raped by a drunkard. This scene made Qin Hao's heart tremble. He deeply felt sorrow for the three old men. They brought this upon themselves. 2 hours later, the three old men's bare buttocks were exposed in front of everyone's eyes. Their bodies were covered in blood as they lay on the ground, beaten to their last breaths. At this time, in the distant sky, a ray of light slowly floated over. The leader of the Dan sect had finally appeared. He stroked his beard and slowly walked forward, especially leisurely. He also used his energy to create a cloud under his feet. It was simply incomparably coquettish. The tall and skinny elder wanted to cry but had no tears. His heart was in pain. Why didn't you come earlier? Moreover, it was useless to come now. A Dan Xian was enough to make the Black Mountain old demon suffer. There was still a drunkard waiting for you. The tall and skinny elder did not even want the Black Mountain old demon to come. In the next second, he would definitely be beaten into a pig's head by the drunkard. Ha ha! Old man is here. The Black Mountain old demon was incomparably proud. Come down, you! The drunkard clawed at the sky. This palm triggered a monstrous suction force that directly sucked the cloud under the Black Mountain old demon's feet. It also pulled the Black Mountain old demon down from the sky and fiercely slammed him to the ground. Coincidentally, the Black Mountain old demon's mouth bit on the stone slab. Suddenly, a bloody tooth flew away from him. Who is the despicable one? That sneak attacked the old man? The Black Mountain old demon covered his face and crawled up. His face was filled with anger. When he turned his head, he was met with an old lunatic. Before he could see clearly, the drunkard had already knocked him to the ground and slapped him more than 10 times. Fortunately, the Black Mountain old demon was strong enough and was not as miserable as the tall and skinny elder. After being hit, he immediately retreated. Drunkard, you shameless old bastard, sneak attacked me? The Black Mountain old demon was startled and felt that it was ridiculous. Then, anger surged and his face was as red as a monkey's butt. That's right, I hit you. The drunkard rushed up and was about to attack again. Wait, old man just arrived. Why did you hit him the moment you saw him? You have to give me a reason, right? The Black Mountain old demon knew that the drunkard was not to be trifled with. He did not want to use force with him. Reason? Mentioning this reason, the drunkard wanted to tear someone apart. He pointed at Xiaogua in Log's arms. That is my little disciple. He then pointed at the tall and skinny elder. They are your lackeys. Your lackeys bit my disciple. The Black Mountain old demon showed an expression of realization. So that's how it is. What's the problem? I'll pay for it. Said, how many pills do you want? How much? The Black Mountain old demon did not take Xiaogua seriously at all. He even used money to insult the drunkard. Money? Even if you sell your mother's, but you can't pay for my precious disciple. The drunkard was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. The Black Mountain old demon was simply courting death. Old bastard, show some respect. The Black Mountain old demon was unhappy. The drunkard insulted his mother. Respect? I just respected them. Now I'll respect you. The drunkard was determined to fight this battle. Do you think I'm afraid of you? What's a lousy disciple? The Black Mountain old demon immediately resisted. He would not give the drunkard another chance to slap his face. In the end, he was strangled by the drunkard and then slapped. Slap. This slap was extremely loud. At the same time, it also completely shattered the Black Mountain old demon's confidence. He was not the drunkard's opponent at all. Stop, stop. I'm a sect leader. You humiliated me like this. You're just slapping my face. The Black Mountain Old Demon was also a big figure in Heaven's Wall City. He was so unlucky today and felt extremely humiliated. Fine, I won't slap your face. I'll King smash you to death. The drunkard grabbed the gourd at his waist and covered the Black Mountain Old Demon's head with it. This gourd was not an ordinary item. It was comparable to a lethal weapon. Immediately, the Black Mountain Old Demon's head was smashed until it was bleeding. He howled miserably. The heavens can be my witness. Old man did nothing. You hit me the moment you saw me and even hit me with a gourd. I'm innocent. You're innocent? Are you innocent? A furious voice was heard. Qin Hao's face was ashen. The Black Mountain Old Demon realized that the speaker was a young man he did not know. Chapter 119. Dan Gu could not be provoked. The anger on Dan Ji's face was self-evident, no less than that of the drunkard. If the drunkard had not made the first move, Old Demon Black Mountain did not doubt that Dan Gu would be the one fighting him. He guessed that the youth who spoke should be Dan Ji's disciple, Qin Hao. It was also this person who made that bullshit 6 fine liquid and swallowed up the Dan sex market. At this moment, other than his hatred for Qin Hao, Old Demon Black Mountain also glared at the tall and thin elder. These incompetent things were good at spoiling things, dilly-dallying when killing a person. If they had killed Qin Hao earlier, everything would have been fine. Now they were caught by Dan Gu. You should have taken the blame yourselves. You knew that the drunkard and lunatic were here, yet you called the old man over to suffer with you. This tall and thin elder did not even wear clothes and ran naked on the street. The Dan Sek's face was completely lost. Even Old Demon Black Mountain was slapped in the face. He would not be able to establish himself in Heaven's Wall City in the future. He would not go out to meet anyone for at least half a year. I admit defeat. He sighed with unwillingness. Old Demon Black Mountain thought that he was stronger than Dan Gu, but he did not expect that he would not be a match for the drunkard. In this half of Jiang country, Fengli Temple's sect Master Chen Kang was undoubtedly recognized as the #1 expert, with the strength of an 8-star Yuan master. Old Demon Black Mountain was also an 8-star Yuan master, but his level was weaker than Chen Kang. He thought that he should be the #2. Now he knew that the drunkard was not much weaker than Chen Kang. What do you want me to do? Compensate or apologize? Old Demon Black Mountain tried to persuade them, but his face said, I am not convinced. Compensate? Apologize? Qin Hao pointed at the corpses on the ground. How are you going to compensate for my grandfather's life? How are you going to compensate for the 2 uncles' lives? My Qin family has more than 100 people. Some have died in battle, and some have been crippled. How are you going to pay for this? Especially when Xiao Han risked her life to block a palm strike. She was hit on the back by the muscular old man in front of Qin Hao. And my brother Xiaogua's fate is still unknown. Do you think an apology is enough? Qin Hao shook his finger disdainfully. I don't accept your apology. Besides, you can't afford it. In other words, the 3 old men must pay with their lives. Little bastard, don't try to push your luck. You don't even have the qualifications to kneel on the ground and kowtow to me. Now I've lowered my status and benevolently come here. Bang! Before the old demon of the Black Mountain could finish, the drunkard smashed the gourd on his head. He's right. You can't afford to pay for my apprentice's life. Stop fighting, stop fighting. The old demon of the Black Mountain hurriedly begged for mercy. Qin Hao was so weak that he deserved to have people die in his family. However, the old demon of the Black Mountain didn't dare to be impudent in the drunkard's hands. The people on the ground aren't actually dead. It's not like you can't sense it. These guards are just a bunch of eyesores. Just dig a hole and bury them. You mean you weren't raised by your own parents? You jumped out of a cesspool with feces in your mouth? Qin Hao couldn't tolerate this. The old demon of the Black Mountain viewed the lives of his guards as worthless than grass. Whatever my apprentice says today, you'll do. Otherwise, Dan Xian took a step forward and released his vital energy. Even the old demon of the Black Mountain wouldn't be spared. Dan Xian, are you crazy? We're all members of the Tao of Alchemy. What's the rush to kill each other? We should work together to benefit the people. Fine, I'll get to the point. You can't touch my 3 elders, and you can't touch me either. Because we're Dan Ji's people. The old demon of the Black Mountain proudly raised his head. The 2 words Dan Go caused the drunkard and Dan Xian's expressions to change at the same time. Their brows furrowed. This was a ridiculously powerful organization that covered the entire Western Liang. Its headquarters was set up in the only empire in Western Liang, the capital of the Luoshui Empire. Without mentioning anything else, any alchemist who entered Dan Ji's name list would be protected by Dan Go. Fortunately, a month ago, my 3 elders became unofficial members of Dan Ji's organization. As for myself, I'm already Dan Ji's official 2nd-grade alchemist. Ha ha. Are you scared now? You can't kill me. What can you do to me? The old demon of the Black Mountain was very proud. He could finally hold his head high. This was simply too coquettish. Dan Xian's expression became very ugly. As soon as the 2 words Dan Go came out of the old demon of the Black Mountain's mouth, an old story appeared in Dan Xian's mind. Once, Dan Xian was also a member of Dan Go. His master was a 4th-grade alchemist of Dan Go. But he was harmed by a villain. Dan Xian was forced to flee to the small Jiang country. What he said is true. Dan Xian knew that he was powerless to fight against Dan Go, but he quickly said, "But as far as I know, Dan Go said that alchemists are not allowed to be killed, but he didn't say that they were crippled. So, hee." The drunkard laughed wretchedly. His gaze was unfriendly as he stared at the old demon of the Black Mountain's thighs. "Old thing, what do you want to do? I'm still a virgin." The old demon of the Black Mountain was shocked. "Fuck off, old man doesn't like that. At most, I'll cripple your legs." The drunkard threw the old demon of the Black Mountain to the ground. This made the old demon of the Black Mountain terrified. "I'm willing to give you anything, as long as you can keep my legs. My disciple is missing a summer pouch." Dan Xian's gaze was sharp. "That's impossible." The old demon of the Black Mountain clutched the pouch at his waist tightly. Only the sect leader was qualified to wear a spatial magic tool. This was the only one. It was absolutely impossible to give it to the weak Qin Hao. "Give it to me." The drunkard went up and pulled the Sumeru pouch down, casually throwing it to Qin Hao. This method was exactly the same as Xiaogua's. Like master, like disciple. No, the old demon of the Black Mountain was about to cry. "Kid, this is what I can do for you." Dan Xian tried his best. He really couldn't afford to offend Dan Go. "I'm still missing a few weapons." Qin Hao also noticed that Dan Xian was in a difficult position, but he definitely wouldn't let the 3 old men off so easily. When the thin and tall elder heard this, he hurriedly grabbed the clear water sword in his hand. "Absolutely not this sword. This sword is not your sword." The drunkard sent a slap over, knocking out the last old tooth of the thin and tall elder. The sword in his hand also swaggered away. "Kid, catch." The drunkard threw the sword to Qin Hao. The thin and tall elder wailed incessantly. He even had suicidal thoughts. The old demon of the Black Mountain glared at him. "Even this sect leader's summer pouch was handed over, and you still want to protect that broken sword? You deserve to be beaten." Qin Hao threw the sword into the spatial ring and looked at the fat elder. "Actually, I feel that I don't have the qualifications to use this curved blade. I even insulted this blade. The heavens have eyes. Young Master Qin Hao is handsome and handsome. He is a perfect match for this curved blade. He is the ideal owner for this curved blade." The fat elder smiled and took the initiative to present the curved blade in front of Qin Hao. His attitude was very respectful, and he didn't forget to cover his crotch with his other hand. At least you have eyes. You won't get slapped twice. The drunkard snorted and looked at the muscular elder. The muscular elder suddenly trembled. He stood up and said passionately, "When I came today, my big hammer was restless. It must have expected that it would become young Master Qin Hao's thing. It disdained to be associated with the old man and even felt ashamed of me. The heavens have eyes. My big hammer's wish has finally come true. Sorry, I don't want your broken hammer." Chapter 120. Wild Dog turned into a demon. How can this be? Look, this hammer is completely black and very strong. Its eyes are filled with unbearable thirst for young Master Qin Hao. The strong elder was anxious. Qin Hao despised his godly hammer. How could he live? Unable to endure the thirst, does your broken hammer have eyes? The drunkard glared at him, scaring the strong elder to the point of panic. How that hammer! I want it! Qin Laoxi's weak voice came as he slowly got up from the ground. Qin Laosan and Qin Shilong also got up. Qi Daxiong shook his dizzy head and swept away the stones on his body. As the old demon said, they were still alive. The strong elder's palm was only to force Qin Hao to kneel down. He didn't kill him. Since my fourth uncle likes it, I'll reluctantly take care of this broken hammer for you. Qin Hao took the one-handed hammer with disdain. Well, it's not light. The strong elder's heart ached. The hammer that he regarded as a treasure was treated as trash by Qin Hao. Sit on a donkey and read a songbook, wait and see. The old demon rolled up the three and wanted to leave. Did I say you can leave? Dan Xian said coldly. What do you want? The old demon was really anxious. Kid, check his sumeru pouch and see if there's a flipping man seal in it. Dan Xian looked at Qin Hao. In fact, he already knew that the old demon joined Dangu and got the treasure from Dangu. Qin Hao was stunned. The flipping man seal was a good thing. The weapons in the world were divided into ordinary weapons, sharp weapons, lethal weapons, sacred weapons, and divine weapons. Some weapons were not included. Those weapons could be big or small and had the ability to change. They were collectively called illusory weapons. The flipping man seal was the lowest level illusory weapon. The more powerful ones were the earth flipping man seal, the sky flipping man seal, and the strongest one was the god flipping man seal. Qin Hao immediately checked the Black Mountain old demon's sumeru pouch. It was sparkling with golden light. There was a frightening amount of gold inside, as well as many rare herbs. He didn't find any flipping person seal, but a pill caught Qin Hao's attention. This pill was extremely large, about the size of a fist, and was shining with light. Qin Hao immediately recognized that this was a great treasure pill that was infinitely close to a Tier 3 pill. Dangu must have given it to the Black Mountain old demon to help him become a 9-star master. However, Qin Hao didn't care at all. He took out the great treasure pill and threw it out. Trash. Oh my God! That's the great treasure pill? Dan Xian and the drunkard were shocked. The great treasure pill was incomparably precious, but it was thrown away like trash by Qin Hao. Dan Xian was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. That's right, it's trash. He looked at Qin Hao with admiration. A person should have a backbone. Dan Xian was an alchemist. If Qin Hao accepted the great treasure pill from the Black Mountain old demon, it would be an insult to himself and to Dan Xian. So, he should throw it away. This scene made everyone's eyes red with envy. The Black Mountain old demon wanted to curse. He didn't even have time to take the great treasure pill before it was thrown away like trash by Qin Hao. Coincidentally, a dog just happened to pass by, picked up the great treasure pill, and ran away. The Black Mountain old demon's eyes were wide open. His heart was filled with hatred and pain. The great treasure pill that even he couldn't bear to eat was eaten by a stray dog. 1. A surge of green light shone in the distance, accompanied by a series of excited dog barks. Oh my God, the dog has become a demon! A demon in the element gathering tear. This is a strange story. Everyone was shocked. Even the old man in the town couldn't stand it anymore. He wished he could become a stray dog immediately. Qin Hao didn't care. He held the sumru pouch and said, "There's no flipping person seal inside." Dan Xian's face darkened. He reached out to the Black Mountain old demon and said, "Hand over the flipping person seal." The great treasure pill was secondary. The flipping person seal was the real treasure. The flipping person seal was given to me by Dan Go. You've really bullied me. The Black Mountain old demon's eyes were bloodshot. The great treasure pill was eaten by a stray dog and turned into a dog demon in the element gathering tier. Now he was forcing him to hand over the flipping person seal. Bullied me too much, you've really bullied me too much. A small voice followed closely behind the Black Mountain old demon. Xiaogua opened his eyes weakly and pointed at the muscular elder. "Master, they've bullied me too much." After saying that, he fainted again. The drunkard's heart was broken when he heard the word master. His eyes instantly turned red, and he raised his hand to slap the Black Mountain old demon. "You're ruthless. I'll remember this." The Black Mountain old demon's heart was bleeding. He pulled out the flipping person seal and threw it to Dan Xian. Without another word, he picked up the tall and thin elder and ran for his life. "Qin Hao, you little bastard, stole the old man's jade water sword. I'll destroy your whole family sooner or later." "Old demon Dan Xian, just you wait. Dan Ji's people won't let you go. You can't afford to use the flipping person seal. And the drunkard, you old lunatic, you forced me to abandon my beloved Chuechu. I won't let this go." Vicious curses could be heard from afar. "I don't need you to look for me. Within 3 years, I'll kill my way to your Dan sect." Qin Hao responded with inner strength. Dan Xian waved his hand and threw out a black light. The drunkard also chopped with his palm. The two attacks were extremely fierce. With a strong sound of breaking air, they drew out 100-meter-long brilliance and crashed into the Black Mountain old demon's origin chi. "Ah, my big foot! My leg!" Amidst the shrill howls, the tall and thin elder and the fat elder had their legs broken. 2 severed limbs fell from the sky. The Black Mountain old demon also howled, as if some part of its family jewels had been broken. Moreover, everyone saw an indecent object fall from the sky, landing right where the dog's spirit was. Roar! The dog howled again, and a dazzling green light shot into the sky. The dog's spirit had broken through to the origin master stage. It was most likely an indecent object that had eaten the Black Mountain old demon. Who would have thought that something from an 8-star origin master would be so powerful? Then, the dog spirit ran in the direction of Explosive Flame Mountain, bringing with it a gust of wind. Its speed was too fast for the eyes to take in. It had gained sentience and knew that it would be dangerous if it stayed. It would be killed by humans. This scene made everyone break out in cold sweat. An origin master stage dog spirit. You and your master have reaped all the benefits, but my disciple has suffered for nothing. I'll say the ugly words first. If anything happens to Little Melon, don't blame me for being ruthless. The drunkard's anger did not lessen at all. He even directed his anger at Qin Hao. Xiaogua had ended up like this because of him. What about now? Qin Hao had obtained a spatial artifact, 3 or 4 refined weapons, and even Dan Ji's overturning seal. He was simply full of treasures. His disciple Xiaogua was pitiful. In fact, if it were not for Dan Xian, Qin Hao would have been slapped. "I've already given Little Melon a vitality pill," Dan Xian said indifferently. The drunkard was very shocked. He and Dan Xian had a life-and-death relationship. Dan Xian had saved his life back then. He knew very well what a vitality pill meant. It was the only thing left behind by Dan Xian's deceased master. It was a 4th-grade pill that contained boundless power and was greatly beneficial to origin masters. To Dan Xian, it was even more important than his life. Thinking of this, the anger on the drunkard's face disappeared by more than half. However, Qin Hao's next words made the drunkard so angry that he wanted to go crazy. Chapter 121. Chapter 121. The truth behind the attack on my parents. What did you say? The drunkard's cheeks twitched wildly. The Herculean demon ox physique had failed at the last step. How could he say that it was nothing serious? He really wanted to slap Qin Hao. Even Dan Xian was unable to maintain his face. Even he did not have the confidence to restore Xiaogua. Qin Hao's tone was a little too arrogant. Regarding this, Qin Hao did not need to explain further. If he said it was fine, then it was definitely fine. Because he was Dendu reborn. Looking at Zhuo Wentian and Zhuang Maoxian, who were rolling on the ground, Qin Hao coldly walked over. Behind him followed Qin Shilong, Qin Laosi, and Qin Laosan. The current miserable state of the Qin family was entirely caused by these two old thieves. Grandnephew Qin Hao, please show us mercy. We were blind and we won't dare to do it again. Zhuang Maoxian tried his best to beg for mercy. Do you still remember Grandnephew Qin Hao? When we were young, I brought you to fly a kite and even bought you cotton candy. Tears flowed from Zhuo Wentian's eyes. He wanted to repeat the same old trick to gain Qin Hao's sympathy. However, he was greeted by Qin Hao's cold sword. These two old thieves must be killed. With his own hands, they had killed Qin Hao's parents. Qin Hao had sworn that he would make the Zhuang family disappear. Today, it was time to fulfill his promise. Shilong, please plead for us. Back then, when we were sworn brothers at the Peach Garden, we were drinking wine and discussing heroes. How heroic! Moreover, even if you don't kill us, we won't be able to live for long. Instead of giving me a quick death, it would be better for me to be poisoned and struggle at death's door, dying in the endless torment of my soul. In order to survive, Zhuang Maoxian was shameless to the extreme. The excuses he found were irrefutable. Mental torture? Qin Hao laughed. If you were really condemned by your conscience, you should have committed suicide long ago to atone for your sins. 3 years ago, when you made a move against my parents, did you ever think that this day would come? Qin Hao's words shocked everyone. Lu Yu clenched his fists so hard that his palms started bleeding. And the lives of my 11 silver-armored cavalry brothers. You! So you know everything. Zhuang Maoxian felt a chill run down his spine. He felt that he was doomed. So it's all true. Old fool, pay with your life for my Tian and my daughter-in-law. Qin Shilong was so angry that he did not hesitate to risk his body to kill his enemy in front of him. No. I don't want to die yet. In fact, we didn't manage to kill your parents. They're still alive, and they left you something important. Zhuang Maoxian screamed like a madman. Shut up, Zhuang. Zhuo Wentian sent a palm strike towards Zhuang Maoxian. He could not allow him to continue speaking. Otherwise, they would die even more miserably. However, Qin Hao easily kicked the palm away, and the purple meteorite sword pressed against Zhuang Maoxian's throat. Qin Hao's breathing quickened, and his heart was in turmoil. What happened 3 years ago? Are my parents really not dead? Explain everything in detail. Zhuang, you can't say. Zhuo Wentian howled with a hoarse voice. F***CKU. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. You must say everything today. Back then, you were also involved in the attack on Qin Dingtian. Zhuang Maoxian opened his mouth and caused another commotion. It turned out that Zhuo Wentian had also participated in the operation to kill Qin Hao's parent. It was indeed me who broke Lu Yu's meridians, but the one who made a move on your parents was Mad Dog Zhuo. Zhuang Maoxian pointed at Zhuo Wentian. Back then, he was the one who instigated the killing of Qin Hao's father. Because Qin Dingtian was too outstanding. Although he wasn't as monstrous as Qin Hao, he was still a rare genius. They were afraid that one day, Qin Dingtian would surpass them. It was a pity that Zhuo Wentian's palm strike towards Qin Hao's father was blocked by his mother. Zhuang, I swear that I will not let you off. Zhuo Wentian was desperate and wanted to kill again. Get lost. Qin Hao sent out a surge of essence qi and knocked Zhuo Wentian to the ground. Continue. Back then, your mother's life was in danger. All of a sudden, a young man descended from the sky. He was around the same age as you, and his strength was so high that it was simply terrifying. In fact, I felt that drunkard patriarch didn't even have the qualifications to lick his leg hair. He was the one who took your parents away. Speaking up to this point, Zhuang Maoxian's eyes were filled with boundless fear, and his body couldn't help but shiver. Damn it! Drunkard was furious. Of all the people he could compare with, he had to bring the old man out. Furthermore, he didn't even have the qualifications to lick his leg hair. You dare to lie to me? Qin Hao didn't believe it at all. A 15 or 16-year-old youth had saved his mother and father. His strength was simply too high. I don't dare to lie. Zhuang Maoxian was anxious. He really didn't lie. At this moment, Dan Xian stood out and looked at Drunkard. He recalled and said, Do you still remember the night of the thunderstorm 3 years ago? There was a shocking aura that intruded into the Jiang kingdom. Half of the kingdom shook and the sky changed colors. If I didn't guess wrongly, it should be that young man. When Drunkard heard this, he fell into silence. In fact, he had also sensed that shocking aura at that time. Although he didn't want to admit it, he couldn't help but feel a wave of fear when he thought about it now. That person's strength has probably reached the level of a sky origin ancestor. No, you're wrong. If I'm not wrong, he should be a saint. Moreover, he should be the strongest heaven sage elite. Dan Xian wasn't from the Jiang kingdom, so his knowledge was naturally much broader than Drunkard's. This news was simply unbelievably shocking to Qin Hao. He knew very well what a heaven sage meant. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that a heaven sage could destroy the entire Jiang kingdom with a single palm strike. Above the Yuan gathering realm was the sky origin master, and above that was the sky origin ancestor. Looking at the entire Jiang kingdom, there wasn't even a single sky origin ancestor. The sect of the Fengli Temple only had an 8-star sky origin master. Above the sky origin ancestor was the sky origin sage realm. The sky origin sage was further divided into ordinary sage, earth sage, and sky sage. The young man who had saved his parents was actually a heaven sage elite. His strength was shocking. No wonder Zhuang Maoxian's face turned pale with fright just now. You're really not lying to me? Qin Hao confirmed once again. I wouldn't dare. When that young man appeared, hundreds of us were so scared that we fell to the ground and lost control of our bowels. He even used his vast power to save your mother's life. Zhuang Maoxian continued. After the young man who had barged in and saved Qin Hao's mother, he set up a barrier. He pulled Qin Hao's father into the barrier. Not long after, the two of them walked out again. Moreover, he gave Zhuang Maoxian an unpolished jade and asked him to personally pass it to Qin Hao. At that time, Zhuang Maoxian nodded like a grandson and agreed. However, in reality, he wouldn't give it to Qin Hao. He thought the unpolished jade was a treasure. In the end, he hid it for 3 years and didn't discover any secret. If he hadn't been exposed today, he wouldn't have said anything even if he died. This is the unpolished jade that the young man asked me to give you. Zhuang Maoxian took out the unpolished jade. It hadn't left his body for 3 years and was always with him, hoping that one day this treasure would shine. Qin Hao took it and looked at it. He immediately recognized that a powerful seal had been placed on it. This seal could only be activated by Qin Hao's blood. He didn't know what secrets it was hiding. Grandnephew Qin Hao, since I've kept the unpolished jade for you for 3 years, even if I don't have any merits, at least I've worked hard. Let me struggle at death's door in this lethal poison. Let my conscience be ravaged endlessly. A beast like me is worse than a pig or a dog. Please don't kill me with a sword. I must be ruthlessly tortured. What Zhuang Maoxian meant was, yes, you can't kill me. You have to thank me. Chapter 122. The mystery of the unpolished jade. Zhuang Maoxian was overjoyed. The treasure was here. He immediately knelt on the ground and turned around. In the next second, Qin Hao would give him a big surprise. What are you looking at? You turn around too. Qin Hao looked at Zhuo Wentian. Zhuo Wentian had a bad feeling, but did not dare to resist. He turned around at the same time. Shua! Qin Hao chopped off their heads with a swing of his sword. The sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and the shore is before it's too late. I'll be merciful and release you from the torment of the poison. This scene caused everyone's jaws to drop. Qin Hao's change in attitude was too fast. Instantly, 2 streams of yellow liquid gushed out from Zhuo Wentian and Zhuang Maoxian's corpses. In the blink of an eye, the corpses were completely corroded. What a strong poison! You poisoned them? The drunkard shivered. With his eyesight, he could naturally see that this poison was infinitely close to a second-grade poison. More importantly, Qin Hao was in the 5th layer of element gathering tier, and was only a first-grade alchemist. The drunkard looked down on Qin Hao from the bottom of his heart. He did not understand why Dan Xian was so protective of this brat, even giving Xiaogua a vitality pill for him to eat. Even if Qin Hao was in the 5th layer of element gathering tier, and had some ability, compared to Xiaogua, the two of them were not on the same level, and could not enter the drunkard's eyes. When it came to taking in disciples, the drunkard had a natural sense of superiority over Dan Xian. He even felt that his disciple hanging out with Qin Hao was a very embarrassing thing. But the poison in front of him made him shocked. Qin Hao could actually concoct a pill above his level. If the drunkard knew that Qin Hao was only in the 1st layer of element gathering tier when he concocted the poison, he would probably be even more shocked. Dan Xian naturally did not need to say much. His face was filled with pride, and there was also a hint of shock. Qin Hao did not object to this, and nodded. In reality, the reason he could concoct a second-grade pill was all thanks to the small furnace that Dan Xian gave him. The small furnace was really good. In addition, he also used a trace of fire elemental energy from the Red Lotus Fire. That fire essence was not the Red Lotus Fire's true form in the Great Void Cauldron. Instead, it was a trace left in Qin Hao's body. It would not harm Qin Hao and could be used by him as he wished. You brat, you're just SOSO. You didn't disgrace the reputation of Dan Xian, and you didn't let Little Melon suffer for nothing. Even if his opinion of Qin Hao had changed a little, the drunkard still wouldn't give him a good face. Young master, forgive me for being so bold as to erect a grave for Zhuo Wentian. After all, he had once taught me martial arts, and I owe him a debt of gratitude. At this moment, Zhuo Junchen stepped forward and spoke sincerely. Go. Qin Hao did not refuse. From this, it could be seen that Zhuo Junchen was a very conscientious person. Immediately, Qin Hao led his clansmen back to the Qin Manor. After this battle, the Zhuo and Zhuang clans were completely removed from the 3 great clans. When Qin Hao killed Zhuo Wentian and Zhuang Maoxian, it caused quite a commotion. The scene was extremely chaotic. Zhuang Bai and Zhuo Dade were poisoned to death. Zhuang Hebo was also pushed to the ground in the midst of the chaos and was trampled into meat paste. As the saying goes, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. After losing Zhuo Wentian and Zhuang Maoxian, their clansmen had been killed. That night, the relatives of these 2 clans ransacked their residences and took away all the valuable items. Those that could not be taken away were burned to the ground. It was late at night. Qin Hao could not sleep in the east courtyard. He held the unpolished jade in his hand, and his emotions were very complicated. Father and mother are not dead. I am not alone. In his previous life, Qin Hao was an orphan and did not experience the feelings of family. This was his greatest regret. In this life, he had Xiao Han and fourth uncle by his side, and he was already very satisfied. He did not expect that his parents were still alive. At this moment, Qin Hao finally mustered up his courage and prepared to break the restriction on the unpolished jade. This restriction was made with Qin Dingtian's blood. Therefore, Qin Hao's blood must be used to break the restriction. Father and son were connected by blood. Qin Hao had already seen through it during the day. He bit his finger and dripped his blood on the rough, unpolished jade. It did not cause any abnormalities. Open for me. Qin Hao gathered his vital energy and injected it into the unpolished jade. The unpolished jade instantly shone brightly, and a powerful force shook off Qin Hao's palm. The unpolished jade floated in the air. In the dazzling light, a figure slowly condensed in the room. This figure was not as muscular as Qi Daxiong. It was also not as elegant as Qin Laosi. However, in Qin Hao's heart, he was very imposing. 2 streams of tears uncontrollably rolled down from the corner of Qin Hao's eyes. He softly muttered, "Father! Don't cry. Forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye." Father and son were connected by heart. This was an illusion left behind 3 years ago. When he appeared, he knew that Qin Hao was crying. He wanted to wipe away the tears on Qin Hao's face. He reached out his hand. However, his hand could not touch Qin Hao's face at all. He was just an illusion. "Your mother and I were attacked. Your mother's condition is very bad." Tears uncontrollably rolled down Qin Dingtian's chiseled face. He choked with sobs. "In order to help your mother get better, I had no choice but to go on a long journey. Once I leave, I won't be able to see you for a long time. Perhaps I will never come back. However, child, you have to remember that even if your parents are not here, you have to bravely live on by yourself. Even if you are lonely, even if no one understands." "Father!" Qin Hao knelt on the ground. He was already sobbing. "Don't take revenge. Be filial to your fourth uncle in the family. Perhaps he can replace my position. However, you must be careful of your second uncle. Qin Yuhai is vicious and will definitely think of ways to kill you. Unless it is absolutely necessary, do not anger him. Apart from that, although your third uncle is two-faced, he is more resolute than anyone else in the family. Therefore, as long as you can move him, he will also be of help to you." As expected of Qin Hao, he had already seen through the Qin family's situation 3 years ago. He had also pointed out a bright path for Qin Hao's survival. Unfortunately, this unpolished jade had been cruelly stolen by Zhuang Maoxian. His fatherly love had also been ruthlessly blocked. "Father, don't worry. Qin Yuhai has already been punished. I will be filial to fourth uncle and look after third uncle." Qin Hao replied. As if he could hear Qin Hao's words, he smiled bitterly. "Treat Xiao Han well. You don't need to know where I am going or what I am going to do. I will bear all the responsibilities and bear all the sins. As a father, I only want you to live and Xiao Han to live an ordinary life. If I don't die, I will definitely return home in glory within 20 years and bring my son to roam the entire divine wilderness continent." At this point, Qin Dingtian opened his arms to Qin Hao. However, he knew that he would never have the chance to hug Qin Hao again. At this moment, Qin Dingtian's figure also dissipated. "Father." Qin Hao got up and rushed to the unpolished jade. He still hadn't figured out where his father and mother had gone. His father only had one purpose for saying so much. He wanted Qin Hao to live well. Qin Hao was very unwilling. Buzz. The unpolished jade suddenly shook and emitted an even more turbulent brilliance. Within this brilliance, an unfamiliar and powerful aura could be felt. Qin Hao immediately stopped in his tracks and felt an unprecedented sense of crisis. If Qin Hao's soul hadn't reached the cultivation level of Emperor Yuan, he would have collapsed under this aura. Qin Hao was certain that this person who suddenly interrupted his father's aura must be the terrifying young man that Zhuang Maoxian mentioned. Why did this person also leave behind an illusion? Chapter 123. Say, Father, my apologies for interrupting you. Forgive my bluntness, but you're a piece of trash as weak as dung. You actually spent 3 years to break through to element gathering tier and undo this weak restriction. No need to be surprised. When the restriction was undone, I myself already sensed it. The moment this figure appeared, he began to curse Qin Hao. This was a young man about the same age as Qin Hao. His face was handsome and pale, as if carved from jade. His facial features were so exquisite that even women would be ashamed of them. But the majesty he exuded was indescribable with words. One word, strong. So strong that others did not even have the courage to raise their heads to look at him, and could only tremble at his feet. Qin Hao dared. He glared at him. This bastard scolded him the moment he saw him. He clearly knew Qin Hao's identity and deliberately scolded him so harshly. Could it be that strong people were all so arrogant? They should look down on others. They should be arrogant. They should point fingers at others and spit everywhere. In fact, after Qin Hao was reborn, from the powerless Great Trash Qin to the 5th layer of Element Gathering Tier, it only took him half a year. Even if this speed couldn't be said to be unprecedented, it could still be said to be astonishing. Moreover, he used his own efforts to walk step by step to reach this level. He did not rely on anyone. Even his master in name, Dan Xian. Qin Hao also did not ask for a single pill. Compared to those hedonistic young masters of clans in the big world who would eat pills at the drop of a hat, Qin Hao had worked hundreds of times harder than before. Yet he was scolded so harshly by this pale-faced young man. No one could tolerate this, not to mention the first-generation Dendi. But the pale-faced young man's next words temporarily extinguished Qin Hao's anger. Sorry, forgive my rudeness. If I humiliate you in public like this in front of Uncle Dingtian, he will definitely not follow me back to the main clan. The pale-faced young man said somewhat helplessly. He only wanted to stimulate Qin Hao's courage. Qin Hao was shocked. Return to the main clan? Could it be the Qin clan in Akita town was only a small branch of a clan? Could it be that there was an even more powerful main family behind them? What the pale-faced youth said next gave Qin Hao an affirmative answer. I'm sure you've already guessed it. My so-called main family is an extremely powerful main family, so powerful that you can't even imagine it. Your Qin family is merely a small branch of the main family left behind in the trashy Jiang kingdom. There was an indescribable sense of glory on the pale-faced youth's face, and even more so, there was a kind of high and mighty arrogance. But he did indeed have the capital to be proud of. There's not much time left. You must be confused right now. Where did I bring your father? What kind of killing business is our family doing? I seem to be a little thirsty. Please allow me to swallow a mouthful of saliva and moisten my alluring jade lips. After the pale-faced youth finished speaking, he really swallowed a mouthful of saliva, all right? Now I'll tell you some exciting news to set your mind at ease. Your mother, who is also my Aunt Tang Rong, is still alive. To be honest, she is really beautiful. And as long as I'm here, she will definitely live a long life of 100 years, no, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 10,000 years. But the premise is that I can survive first. The pale-faced youth had been talking non-stop. He was simply like a long-tongued woman. But Qin Hao could see that he was actually not a bad person. On the contrary, he was a very warm-hearted person. What puzzled Qin Hao was that there was a sense of desolation and sorrow on the pale-faced youth's face. If it weren't for the fact that our main family was on the verge of extinction, I wouldn't have come to disturb your lives. That's right, that awesome clan of ours, that incomparably flashy clan, that clan that can drown a group of saint-level and king-level experts with just a spit of saliva. It's going to be over. Oh God. My good days are coming to an end. My money, my beautiful little maid, my glory and wealth. As the pale-faced youth spoke, he actually burst into tears. This made Qin Hao a little unable to react, and he was extremely shocked. A group of king-level experts could be drowned by just a spit. This family was quite scary. However, the pale-faced youth was not speaking without thinking. After all, he was already a heavenly saint expert. Moreover, he was still so young. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the strength of the group of old fellows in the main family was. Such a powerful family was actually going to be finished? In short, I want to tell you, your father will become a reserve warrior and represent the main family in battle. He will step onto a bloody battlefield, a battlefield that even I won't be able to survive. In every battle, many of our family members will die. Of course, Uncle Dingtian's current strength is as weak as a big pile of dog dung. He will need to enter the main family's blood pool to awaken the bloodline power of the Qin family. If you don't want Uncle Dingtian to die in battle and want your mother to live a long life of 100 years, 1,000 years, 100,000 years, hurry up and strengthen yourself. Cultivate to the origin sage stage as soon as possible, or at least reach the mortal sage stage. At that time, I will give you the next step. If it takes too long and I can't hold on any longer. The pale-faced youth's meaning was obvious. Once he died, Qin Hao's parents would definitely die. Uncle Dingtian wants you to live an ordinary life, but I will secretly tell you the truth. Forgive me for my selfishness. If you think you are a man and your surname is Qin, hurry up and take over my position. Also, remember my name. My name is Qin Yun. Ha ha ha. Finally, the pale-faced youth stopped talking. The unpolished jade had lost all its brilliance and completely dimmed as it fell to the ground. At this moment, Qin Hao was filtering the huge amount of information in his mind. No wonder his father had said that he would bear all the responsibility and suffer all the sins. It turned out that he was going to represent the Qin family on a dangerous battlefield. Qin Hao instinctively felt that the Qin family's branch was not only in Akita town. There were many branches. He reckoned that Qin Yun was specifically responsible for finding the branch family members. His father was the one who had been found. If Qin Hao did not go, the person on the battlefield would be Qin Hao. His father was protecting Qin Hao. An extremely powerful main family? An unknown and bloody battlefield? A relative who was like a shrew and even more eloquent than Xiaogua. Qin Yun. I don't care if it is a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, I will take a risk. A heroic spirit arose spontaneously. Qin Hao was not someone who would be intimidated. He would not allow anyone to obstruct his family. He was determined to rescue Qin Dingtian from the battlefield. But Qin Hao had to reach the saint class first. This was the prerequisite for gaining Qin Yun's approval. And he had to be fast enough. After a night, Qin Hao decided to hide the secret of the unpolished jade. This news was too shocking. Qin Shilong and Qin Laosi were only mortals in the secular world. They would definitely not be able to accept it. In the past, it was Qin Hao who was protecting the Qin family. Now, the burden fell on Qin Hao's shoulders. It was natural. In order to increase his strength as soon as possible, he had to accept Qin Yun's next instructions. Chapter 124. Handing out the equipment after a good night's sleep to relieve the fatigue brought about by the annual meeting, Qin Hao headed for the ancestral hall. Qin Hao had already stored the unpolished jade in his interspatial ring. It was the only thing he could use to contact him. It was extremely important. The ancestral hall was filled with the Qin family's high-ranking officials, including Zhuo Junchen, Zhuo Maqiang, and the Blood Qilin. Xiao Han stood next to Qin Shilong. Are your injuries better? Qin Hao first expressed his concern to Zhuo Maqiang. Ren Tieju's fist had landed squarely on Zhuo Maqiang's back. He had taken it on Qin Shilong's behalf. It was only right that he showed concern. Thanks to young master's good fortune, Elder Dan Xian personally treated my injuries and gave me some pills. I'm basically healed now. Zhuo Maqiang was touched and proud. It was an honor to have Dan Xian heal him, and it was all thanks to Qin Hao. In order not to worry Qin Hao, he deliberately shook his arm, but the pain caused him to grit his teeth. It was obvious that his injuries had not fully healed. Qin Hao saw this and sighed. Zhuo Maqiang was a real man. He had not wasted his efforts in saving them. How did Big Brother leave any words in that unpolished jade? Or any treasures? Qin Laosan leaned over and asked, his eyes shining with greed. Third brother, you're messing around again, Qin Laosan said seriously. Qin Hao smiled. He did not mind. In fact, Qin Laosan had no ill intentions. It was just a facade. But to be honest, Qin Hao always felt that his third uncle was a villain. Father did leave a message in the jade. He told me to take good care of Grandpa. He said he was old. Also, I must be filial to fourth uncle and not mistreat third uncle. Dingtian, my good child. Tears streamed down Qin Shilong's face. Where is Big Brother now? Do you need any help? Qin Laosan's eyes were filled with urgency. The depth of their brotherhood was self-evident. Qin Hao was silent for a moment. If it's not convenient for Master, my father and I will leave immediately. Zhuo Junchen quickly pulled Zhuo Maqiang up. Now, they were discussing the Qin family's private affairs. As servants, they were discussing the Qin family's private affairs. They had no right to listen. Zhuo Maqiang nodded. Although on the day of the annual meeting, Qin Shilong publicly admitted that he had adopted him as his son. However, Zhuo Maqiang thought that this was just Qin Shilong's way of humiliating Zhuo Wentian. The Qin family's crisis had already been resolved, and Zhuo Maqiang should also be clear about his identity. He was a servant, not worthy of being a foster son. Mo Chang and Xiao Qin, you don't have to hide anything. Now you are part of the Qin family. The old man didn't take you as his adopted son for a joke. You are my child and also the master of the West Courtyard. If anyone dares to make irresponsible remarks, then they are going against me, Qin Shilong. Qin Shilong shouted loudly. This shout was meant for old Third Qin to hear. He was the only unstable factor. Godfather. Zhuo Maqiang knelt down with tears in his eyes. His heart had completely integrated into the big family of Qin Manor. Grandpa is right. You are members of the Qin family. Even if you are dead, you are still ghosts of the Qin family. Qin Hao already regarded Zhuo Junchen as one of his own. He had been silent just now because he was considering how to hide the secret of the unpolished jade. Also, don't call me master anymore. It hurts my ears. Just call me Qin Hao. Qin Hao patted Zhuo Junchen's shoulder generously. Zhuo Junchen was flattered. No, young master is young master. I, Zhuo Junchen, am determined to follow you for the rest of my life. I am willing to be young master's sharp blade to kill your enemies. How just accept him. Junchen has already been completely conquered by you. If he leaves you, he will lose his direction in life. He won't know how to live anymore. Zhuo Maqiang said. My father is right. Young master is the guiding light of my life. Your superb alchemy skills and endless methods are all examples for me to learn from. I am willing to serve young master. Zhuo Junchen knelt on one knee in front of Qin Hao, his eyes burning with passion. After so many things had happened, Zhuo Junchen had already seen through the fickleness of the world. Only by following Qin Hao did he feel that he was a useful person, not a piece of trash who was disdained by others. This, all right. Even Qin Hao hadn't expected his influence on Zhuo Junchen to be so great. In the past, Zhuo Junchen had been a prominent figure. Now that he had opened his mouth, he was determined to follow him. He had even made a lifelong vow. This made Qin Hao feel rather embarrassed. Even if Zhuo Junchen was asked to rape old third Qin right now, he wouldn't hesitate. Actually, father didn't mention where he went in the jade. At the time, mother had been struck by Zhuo Wentian and was on the verge of death. A young man suddenly appeared and saved mother. It wasn't easy for mother to fully recover. Father left with that young man, saying that after mother was cured, he would return home in glory within 10 years. Qin Hao replied vaguely. This made Qin Shilong feel much more at ease. Looks like Big Brother went to learn alchemy. Old fourth Qin exclaimed in realization. What skills does that young brat have? Even a hero like Big Brother went to learn alchemy from him? Old third Qin really did have the face of a villain, looking down on others for no reason. Qin Hao was speechless. It's fine as long as the couple is alive. I believe that at the very most, he will return home in glory. Qin Shilong was very confident in his eldest son. So grandfather and uncles don't worry too much. Right now, there's something I need to discuss with you. At this point, Qin Hao's eyes shone with a hint of farewell. How are you going to leave fourth uncle? Old fourth Qin's heart ached. Qin Hao nodded. He was going to go to Fengli Temple with Dan Xian. This matter had been suppressed for a long time, and everyone was well aware that Dan Xian had rushed over to the annual meeting to take Qin Hao away. Qin Shilong's grandson, should spread his wings and fly high. In the end, it's the family that tied you down. If you stay, you will only be a burden to us. Qin Shilong felt a little sad, but more than that, he felt proud. Before I leave, take these things with you. Qin Hao's fingers shook, and several sharp weapons flew out from his spatial ring. In an instant, the hall was filled with cold light. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Even the blood Kirin couldn't help but gulp. It looked at the green water sword, which was glowing with water. It was the tall, skinny elder's top-quality weapon. The material was infinitely close to a murder weapon. It was a treasure among treasures. At the same time, Xiao Han also looked at the jade water sword. Obviously, Xiao Han also liked the sword very much. This saber is for you, Grandpa. You're an old hero. Ha ha ha. Qin Hao gave the saber to Qin Shilong. It was made by Shihaoqi. Qin Shilong liked it very much. He held it in his hand and looked at it again and again. He didn't want to put it down. Fourth uncle, your hammer. Qin Hao threw the strong elder's one-handed hammer to old fourth Qin. The hammer had already been repaired. He didn't expect that the gentle fourth uncle would fall in love with hammers. Good hammer. Old fourth Qin waved the hammer in his hand vigorously. Old third Qin was so scared that he screamed a few times. Brother Junchen, I remember that you are good with knives. Are you satisfied with this scimitar? Qin Hao handed the scimitar to Zhuo Junchen. Zhuo Junchen was stunned, but then he felt very touched. There were only 4 weapons. There were so many people in the Qin manor, and not even old third Qin or Qin Yu had one. Yet, Qin Hao had given the scimitar to Zhuo Junchen. Zhuo Junchen's snow-silver scimitar was only a low-quality weapon. The one in his hand was a mid-quality weapon. Zhuo Junchen would never have dreamed that. Thank you, young master, for your kindness. Zhuo Junchen accepted the scimitar. At this time, Xiao Han and the blood Kirin looked at each other with even more passion. They looked at each other and were secretly fighting with their eyes. Chapter 125. Out of reach, you have to give me that sword. The blood Kirin spoke first. Why should I give it to you? It's mine. Xiao Han wasn't going to back down. Because I saved your Qin family. Qin Hao should repay me. The blood Kirin had given her double the commission, and she had also saved many of Qin Hao's people. That was a great sacrifice. Qin Hao and I have relied on each other since we were young. You can't compare to me in terms of sacrifice. Everyone knew how much Xiao Han had suffered for Qin Hao over the years. He had even sacrificed his own body in exchange for medicine and blocked that palm strike. I don't care. This pervert owes me a sword. The blood Kirin unleashed its power, trying to force Xiao Han back. He broke my sword too. He owes me one. Xiao Han wasn't afraid of her though. She took a step forward. He even rode on me and touched my body. He owes me. The blood Kirin's face turned red as she spoke. As she spoke, she reached out to grab the jade water sword. He peeked at me taking a shower. He touched my entire body. Xiao Han didn't have time to finish her sentence. She quickly blocked the blood Kirin's hand. The blood Kirin was shocked. This little girl dared to fight with me? The blood Kirin became even angrier, and it increased its strength. Xiao Han wasn't afraid. She could give up other things, but she couldn't give up anything that belonged to Qin Hao. Plus, Xiao Han had been taught by Qin Hao. She wasn't any worse than the blood Kirin. The two girls were fighting in the hall. Everyone was very surprised. In order to fight over the sword in Qin Hao's hand, they were actually fighting. Qin Hao stepped forward and separated the two of them. Stop it! If he didn't stop them, Qin Hao's reputation would be ruined. One called him a pervert. The other said he peeked at her taking a shower. People who didn't know better would think Qin Hao was a pervert. I don't care. In any case, Sister Jian is mine. The blood Kirin wasn't going to give Qin Hao any face. It didn't stop, and it used the power of the 5th tier of gathering essence to grab the blue water sword on the table. If you want to snatch it, then snatch it. Have you asked for my permission? Xiao Han used his hand as a sword and activated the heaven grade technique, graceful sword. His speed was extremely fast. Swoosh. It was as if the two fair hands were competing as they fiercely grabbed at the jade water sword. Qin Hao shook his head helplessly. He reached out with his strong palm and grabbed both of their wrists at the same time. His grip was incomparably firm. Have you guys had enough? Humph. Xiao Han turned his head away. She was not surprised to be subdued by Qin Hao in one move, but her expression was sullen. No matter how hard she tried, it seemed that she would always be defeated by Qin Hao. The blood Kirin was shocked. Qin Hao, this fellow, easily grabbed her wrist, and she couldn't move at all. As an assassin, she had the ability to train in blood. Even though Qin Hao was also in the 5th tier of gathering essence, in terms of technique and inner power, the blood Kirin believed that she was stronger than Qin Hao. Yet, she couldn't muster any strength under his palm. You're a monster! The blood Kirin expressed its dissatisfaction. In the blink of an eye, the little ant from back then had become stronger than it. Stop it! What are you doing? Qin Shilong finally couldn't sit still. He rushed forward and separated the three of them, his expression apologetic. Lady Kirin, we will remember the kindness you have shown the Qin family. Hao doesn't know any better, so please don't blame him. Qin Shilong spoke up for the blood Kirin, but in reality, he had no intention of giving the sword away. The blood Kirin saw this and humphed coldly. I don't care about that stupid sword. Actually, helping the Qin family wasn't just for him. After saying this, the blood Kirin looked at Qin Hao angrily. If it wasn't for Hao, then was it for our family? Are you related to us? Ha ha. Qin Laosan's face was filled with laughter. He looked like a complete villain. You don't look like a good person, but you are right. I am related to you. The blood Kirin suddenly looked very cocky. She had someone to rely on in the Qin family. She would deal with Qin Hao later. Qin Shilong froze. He and the blood Kirin weren't friends, and none of the Qin family members had ever seen the blood Kirin before. Where did the blood Kirin come from? My name is Tang Shirshir. Is there someone called Tang Rong in your family? The blood Kirin saw Qin Shilong's confusion, so she quickly spoke. Boom. Qin Shilong's mind shook. You are from Heaven's Wall City's Tang Manor? Now Qin Shilong understood. He wasn't the only one who understood. Qin San and Qin Lao Si fell silent. They seemed to be lost in their memories. The Tang Manor had a very strong background. The Tang Manor really was related to them. And the relationship wasn't shallow. They were in-laws. Unfortunately, the Qin family couldn't afford to be in-laws with them. If you know about the Tang Manor, then Tang Rong must be in your house. Hurry up and ask her to come out. The blood Kirin couldn't wait. This, Qin Shilong sighed dejectedly. It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned Tang Rong. Now that he was talking about his daughter-in-law, he felt sad. Why don't you tell me? Who is Tang Rong to you? Qin Hao asked. She is my auntie. The blood Kirin proudly raised its nose. Although Tang Rong and the blood Kirin weren't related, there were many layers of relationship. But in the blood Kirin's mind, Tang Rong was a good person. When he was very young, his auntie had taken him to catch butterflies. That was a very vague memory. The blood Kirin had been badly injured, and he had no one to rely on. That was why he had come to Akita town to find Tang Rong. The blood Kirin knew that Tang Rong had married into that broken town. She had left with nothing. It was very sad. Tang Rong. She is my mother. Qin Hao said in a low voice. What did you say? The blood Kirin's proud expression suddenly disappeared. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. Tang Rong's auntie was the pervert's mother. That was too much of a coincidence. She was dumbfounded. Immediately after, a monstrous rage arose. Tang Rong. She might be dead. Tang Rong was the blood Kirin's last hope in the world. Don't worry. I just said that although my mother was hit, she is still alive. My father will heal her. Qin Hao comforted her. I just hate that I didn't poke more holes in Zhuang Maoxian and old dog Zhui yesterday. The blood Kirin clenched his teeth. This made Zhuo Maqiang and Zhuo Junqian feel ashamed. Grandpa, what is the Tang Mansion? Qin Hao had never heard of the Tang Mansion before. Even when his mother was still alive, he hadn't mentioned it. Qin Hao instinctively felt that there was a great secret behind all of this. It was even possible that his mother had suffered a great grievance. The Tang Mansion is your mother's family. We can't afford to offend them. We can't afford to be friends with them. Qin Shilong's whole body was filled with a sense of powerlessness. The Tang Mansion was powerful. Although it wasn't as powerful as the Fengli Temple or the alchemy sect, it wasn't something the small Qin family could compete with. They were a big family in the city. The Qin family was from the countryside. The Tang Mansion was ashamed of the Qin family. Your grandfather is the great elder of the Tang Mansion. Your father and mother met by accident. They fell in love with each other. What happened next was a bit melodramatic. It was a good show to break up a couple. Chapter 126. Old Marriage Contract. Tang Rong, on the other hand, was so charming that she was once the most talented woman in Heaven's Wall City. She was even chosen as the future daughter-in-law of the Tang family's old patriarch. Who would have known that Qin Dingtian would interfere? This Qin Dingtian was also brimming with talent and had extraordinary aptitude. The two of them met by chance, fell in love with each other, and couldn't be stopped. Just like dry firewood meeting a raging fire, the collision created my love like a flame. Tang Rong ignored her family's dissuasion and pledged her life to Qin Dingtian. This was undoubtedly a slap to the face of the Tang family's old patriarch. Since Tang Rong's father was the great elder, the old clan leader had no choice but to swallow his anger. In the beginning, although the marriage was not favored, but under Qin Shilong's persuasion, the first elder felt sorry for his daughter and reluctantly agreed. Later on, for some reason, Tang Rong got pregnant before marriage. This made the great elder furious. He scolded Qin Dingtian for being a good-for-nothing for making his daughter pregnant. Where would the old man's face go? In a fit of anger, he cancelled the marriage. Moreover, he forced Tang Rong to abort the child. This was a huge scandal. Hearing this, Qin Hao's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, "You actually want to beat me? I'm innocent." Tang Rong and Qin Dingtian would get married sooner or later anyway. Getting on the boat first and then buying tickets later would work. It was Tang Rong's fault for being a young lady from a prestigious family. Her family's rules were rigid and strict. It was a huge taboo. Even the great elder couldn't protect her. In the end, he was forcefully chased out of the family. He was not allowed to bring a single cent with him. When he left the house, he was extremely poor. Qin Shilong didn't mind. After all, it was his son's fault. He had harmed the young lady. Therefore, they didn't even have a proper wedding and directly moved into the east courtyard. But old man will never forget the phlegm that the seventh elder of the Tang Manor spat on old man's forehead. That smelly phlegm. He scolded our Qin family and called us country bumpkins for raising someone who's worse than pigs and dogs. Later, I found out that it was the seventh elder's doing. He secretly gave your father and mother an aphrodisiac. After your mother was chased out of the clan, the seventh elder was immediately promoted to the second elder. That old bastard spit *ck his ancestors. Qin Shilong disregarded his status and spat a mouthful of saliva on the ground. He was the one who ruined the wedding. It was him who caused Tang Rong to be chased out of the house. He was the one who spat on the old man's forehead. It was he who had strongly requested to get rid of Qin Hao. *ck. This old bastard's conscience is simply too bad. If I catch him, I'll definitely give him a few tight slaps. Qin Hao made a solemn vow. It's not just a few slaps. You have to peel off his skin and pull out his tendons. Then, you have to hang him under the sun like a clothes hanger. After that, you have to dry him up and feed him to the dogs. Now, the blood Kirin couldn't help but curse. His hatred for the second elder was even greater than Qin Hao's. Why are you cursing him? Qin Hao didn't understand. Is he trying to avenge me? Because that old mad dog killed my mother and chased me out of the clan. He isn't human, and he doesn't deserve to be my grandfather. The blood Kirin gnashed his teeth in hatred. *ck. This old man with a bad conscience is actually your grandfather? Qin Hao was shocked. Yes, he is my grandfather. But who in this world would have a grandfather who chased his own child out of the family and killed my mother? The blood Kirin's hatred for the second elder had reached a point where it couldn't live under the same sky. Now that you mention it, there is. That old man, Zhuo Wentian, is one of them. Qin third elder was touching a sore spot. This made Zhuo Maqiang and Zhuo Junshin feel even more ashamed. It seemed as if the second elder wasn't much better than Zhuo Wentian. He despised my mother for being a servant, so he seduced my father. He didn't know that my father and my mother were truly in love. After my mother died, my father committed suicide. I was chased out of the family when I was 3 years old. I lived on the streets. I was hungry, but I couldn't eat. I was cold, and my clothes couldn't cover my body. Fortunately, I was adopted by an old woman. When I was 10 years old, I swore that I would kill that bastard. The blood Kirin's tears were like blood. The second elder had caused the death of her parent. She had been starving since she was a child, and she had been forced to walk the path of an assassin. Every day, she lived a life of nightmares. Even the blood Kirin didn't know how she had gotten so far. The only thing that kept her going was revenge. Poor child. Qin Shilong sighed. The second elder had done a lot of harm. Oh right. Let's not talk about the Tang family. Speaking of the Tang family, your mother left you something. Never mind. You should take a look at it yourself. Qin Shilong walked into the room and brought out a box. He opened the box and handed a letter to Qin Hao. Qin Hao couldn't wait to open it. When he saw it, he froze. A marriage contract? It was a marriage contract to the daughter of the Tang family's leader. An arranged betrothal before they were even born. Yes, it is a marriage contract. Qin Laosi stood up and said. Even though Tang Rong had been kicked out of the family, there were no parents who didn't love their children. That was why the great elder had secretly come to see it a few times. Moreover, the son of the old clan leader was also obsessed with Tang Rong. When they talked in private, they had agreed that if he gave birth to a son and Tang Rong gave birth to a daughter, they would become in-laws. Who would have thought that it would be the other way around? Tang Rong gave birth to a son, and the other party gave birth to a daughter. But later, your health got worse and worse. My sister-in-law thought that the marriage would not happen, and the marriage contract was forgotten. As Qin Laosi spoke, he did not forget to look at Xiao Han. Because Qin Hao's health was weak, Tang Rong was afraid that Qin Hao would be disliked by the Tang family. That was why she adopted Xiao Han as a child bride. It seems that I have to go to the Tang family. Qin Hao put away the marriage contract. However, the Tang family is not something we can mess with. The marriage contract is just a joke. Don't humiliate yourself. Although Qin Laosi's words were unpleasant, they were for Qin Hao's sake. That's right. This uncle who doesn't look like a good person is right. Tang Fei won't even look at you. Plus, she's already in love with someone else. The blood Kirin often went in and out of the Tang family. He always wanted to assassinate the second elder, so he knew the Tang family like the back of his hand. What? My child betrothed is in love with someone else? I haven't agreed to it yet. That shameless B***tc. Qin Hao was Denda reborn. Although he did not like Tang Fei, he did not like her. But another man had seduced a woman that he did not want. That was unacceptable. What's more, it happened without my knowledge. Don't look for trouble. The man who seduced Tang Fei is the son of the pillar of the state general, Wang Ba Wang Gui. The blood Kirin's words shocked everyone. Qin Hao's love rival turned out to be the son of the pillar of the state general. The pillar of the state general was above tens of thousands of people. He commanded hundreds of thousands of elite soldiers. With a wave of his hand, he could destroy mountains and rivers. Even the king of the Jiang kingdom tolerated him. Chapter 127. Repair Bull Demon Body. This Wang Gui not only has a noble status, but his temperament is also otherworldly. His strength is ridiculously strong. He is only 18 years old, but he has already reached the level of a 3-star Yuan master. He is regarded as a saint by the Guihai sect. Oh, that's right, the Guihai sect is the #1 sect in the northern part of the Jiang kingdom. Compared to the Fengli temple in the southern part of the country, it is only stronger, not weaker. How do you think it can compare to the king turtle? Comparing strength? You're merely in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. In terms of background, you are a third-rate young master in a poor town. In terms of backing, the old man Dan Xian is barely passable, but Wang Gui is respected by everyone in the sect as the Holy Son. What do you count as in the Fengli temple? As for status, the blood Kirin laughed coldly. It did not hide the disdain in its laughter. Wang Gui was the son of the great boiling pot general, a natural-born dragon. Qin Hao was just an ant. The blood Kirin's words made everyone in the Qin manor break out in a cold sweat. In fact, Wang Gui doesn't even know who you are. Even if he knows of your existence, you're not even qualified for him to look at you. Let's not talk about this for now. You won't be able to get past Tang Fei. She has high standards, and you're just a piece of dog shit. The blood Kirin poured a bucket of cold water over everyone's heads. On the other side, Xiao Han was so angry that his eyes turned red. If Qin Hao hadn't held him back, he would have fought the blood Kirin. She had described Qin Hao as a good-for-nothing. I advise you to give up. Originally, with Tang Fei's status, she wouldn't be able to enter Wang Gui's eyes. However, she was born with a Yuan Xing body and had gained the favor of the King Turtle. Currently, she had already reached the 7th tier of Element Gathering tier. As for you, no matter if you're compared to Tang Fei or the King Turtle, you're destined to be the mud beneath their feet that they can only look up to. The Blood Kirin felt helpless. He was even a little jealous. Tang Fei was born with a Yuan Sage physique, so there was no doubt that she would reach the Sage realm in the future. There wasn't even a single origin sect in the entire Jiang country, so Tang Fei was even more precious than a princess. What qualifications did Qin Hao have to compete with this pair of dragons and phoenixes from the 9th heaven? Destroy the marriage certificate immediately. Don't bring disaster to the Qin family. I heard that the Pillar of the State General was conferred the title of Prince by His Majesty half a year ago. We really can't afford it. Qin Shilong shook his head helplessly. Qin Laosan directly ordered Qin Hao to destroy the marriage contract. It's still too early to say whether I'm a dragon or a phoenix. This Tang residence. I still have to go. Qin Hao paused for a moment before continuing, but don't worry, I won't provoke Tang Fei. I'm only going to see grandfather and the second elder who spat on grandfather. After that, Qin Hao stepped out of the door. He snorted coldly in his heart. Now I can't afford it. In the future, I will leave them in the dust. Also, let me tell you something. The person who can't match up to Qin Hao is Tang Fei. I will prove it to you. Xiao Han chased after Qin Hao as he passed by the Blood Kirin. In response, the Blood Kirin could only smile bitterly. She wasn't convinced either. But all of this had been decided from the beginning. In the end, the Jade Water Sword was given to Xiao Han. It wasn't that Qin Hao was biased. In fact, it wasn't suitable for the Blood Kirin. The Jade Water Sword was too dazzling, and it was disadvantageous for an assassin. It wasn't even as good as Zhuo Junchen's scimitar. Of course, Qin Hao also gave some compensation. He gave the Blood Kirin a banknote worth 100,000 taels of silver. This wasn't an insult. The Blood Kirin had asked for it. Because she really needed money. Every bit of her hard work, every bit of her growth, was inseparable from money. She needed to buy pills to increase her strength, and then take revenge. Almost all of the money she earned from doing missions had been invested into her cultivation. Every single penny had been exchanged with her blood and life. Qin Hao returned to the east courtyard. Xiaogua was still unconscious. The drunkard had stayed by his bedside and cried all night. Dan Xian couldn't sleep. In fact, Qin Hao could wake Xiaogua up with a wave of his hand. But he didn't. The drunkard had looked down on Qin Hao from the beginning. He thought that Qin Hao was dragging Xiaogua down. Qin Hao wanted to make the drunkard anxious. As for Xiaogua's broken bull demon body, Qin Hao was confident that he could fix it. The drunkard is looking for you. As soon as he entered the east courtyard, he saw Log at the gate. Log had his arms crossed and was leaning against the wall. He was obviously waiting for Qin Hao. The drunkard he was talking about was the drunkard. Qin Hao nodded. It was time to treat Xiaogua's body. He stopped and turned back gratefully. Thank you, Senior Log, for helping me fix that rotten hammer. With Qin Hao's current ability, it was impossible for him to fix the one-handed hammer that Xiaogua had bent without damaging the material. Log had sacrificed a lot of energy. You are very good. I can't see through you. Junior brother is worth it. Also, don't offend the drunkard. He's a madman. Log was a wooden person. He wasn't good at communicating. He was reminding Qin how to be polite in front of the drunkard. Otherwise, he would be beaten. Last night, when Qin Hao pulled him up to fix the rotten hammer, Qin Hao's ability to control fire and his mysterious refining techniques shocked Log. He couldn't see through Qin Hao. He instinctively felt that Qin Hao was extraordinary. "Thank you, Senior Log." Qin Hao thanked him again and strode into a room. This room was specially prepared for Xiaogua. "How is it, Sai?" In the room, Dan Xian had been taking Xiaogua's pulse for a whole day. The drunkard had also asked countless questions. As a result, Dan Xian sighed. "AI. As a second-grade alchemist, you can't even deal with a child. Why don't you jump into a cesspool and commit suicide?" The drunkard was extremely dissatisfied. "Don't make a fuss if you don't understand. Not to mention a second-grade alchemist, even a third-grade alchemist wouldn't be able to save Little Melon's body. I've done my best to save his life." The health pill that Dan Xian fed Xiaogua was a fourth-grade pill. However, it could only save Xiaogua's life. He didn't even know when he would wake up. "My poor Little Melon, I'm sorry. I'm useless. I couldn't protect you." Qi Daxiong sat on the ground with his head in his hands, sobbing like a child. His back was still wrapped in bandages. He blamed himself in his heart. "I'm back." Qin Hao pushed the door open and walked in. "Good. You braggart, let's see how the old man will deal with you." The drunkard exploded as soon as they met. Back then, Qin Hao had said that Little Melon was fine. "Old madman, what do you want to do?" Dan Xian immediately blocked him. Suddenly, the two old men, who were wearing tattered clothes, had dirty hair, and even their beards were flying in anger, began to stare at each other. "What's the hurry? I told you Little Melon is fine." Qin Hao liked to see drunkards in a bad mood. Moreover, the two old men seemed to be quite interesting when they were fighting. Shameless boasting. "Old man, let's see what methods you have. If you can cure my disciple, that's fine. If you can't, humph." The drunkard snorted fiercely, and his vitality shook the room 3 times. "Boy, are you confident?" Dan Xian couldn't help but feel nervous. Chapter 128. You provoke them, let me try. Qin Hao came to the bed and placed his palm on Xiaogua's cheek. His tender little face was now pale and cold. Qin Hao's heart ached. Good brother. At the auction, the two had treated each other with utmost sincerity. Qin Hao was willing to risk his life to protect Xiaogua. Today, the Qin manor was in trouble. Xiaogua was willing to give up his demon ox body to protect Qin Hao. Everything was understood without words. Qin Hao secretly circulated his yuan qi and sent it into Xiaogua's body through his cheek. Qin Hao's yuan qi carried a trace of red lotus fire yuan. The demon ox body was one of the most ferocious bodies in the world. After awakening, it had a ferocious appearance and immense strength. Its defense was astonishing. The main reason was that there was a violent element in the body. Once the body could not withstand the violent element, it would collapse, but compared to the fierceness of the red lotus fire, this violent element was nothing. Controlling the fire yuan to flow through Xiaogua's body, the violent element was like a turtle meeting its ancestor. Qin Hao obediently took it out of Xiaogua's body. Qin Hao's finger flashed. The violent element was absorbed into the spatial ring. This thing was very special. Who knew when it would be useful? Done. Qin Hao took back his hand with ease. You just touched his face and it's done? The drunkard was stunned for a moment, then became angry. Are you playing with old man? This Qin Hao did not know how to lie. Even if he was like Dan Xian, taking Xiaogua's pulse and then flipping Xiaogua's eyelids, he would still be able to fool him. The drunkard could still give Qin Hao a way out. This bastard just casually touched his face and it was done. This was simply humiliating the old man in front of everyone. He rushed forward and grabbed Qin Hao's collar. Beside him, Dan Xian was also sweating profusely. However, it was not good to stop him. Qin Hao had bitten his tongue by bragging. Let go of me. Do you believe that if I shout 3 times, Melon Brother will wake up? Qin Hao did not dare to resist. The log had reminded him that there would be consequences if he angered the drinker. Bah! Even if you shout 300 times, 3,000 times, 30,000 times, until your throat bleeds, my precious disciple still won't wake up. This is simply infuriating to death, old man. If it wasn't for Dan Xian's face, the drunkard would have slapped Qin Hao's face. 1. Qin Hao started counting. What qualifications do you have to be Dan Xian's disciple? He has never accepted a disciple. You don't have the qualifications, you don't have the family background, you don't have the face of a donkey, and your life is worthless. 2. If it wasn't for you, how could my disciple run to a Kita town where even birds don't shit? What's more hateful is that he even became sworn brothers with you. What qualifications do you have to be my disciple's big brother? He has the 1 in 10,000 great strength ox demon body. You are nothing. I already have the heart to kill you. The drunkard really raised his hand to slap. Dan Xian's face changed. He really did not have the face to stop him. Qin Hao was really too much. Of all the people he could harm, he had to harm Xiaogua. Even Dan Xian felt distressed. This 1 in 10,000 great strength ox demon body. 3. You still dare to count. If little Melon really wakes up, old man will kneel down and kowtow to you. I will King slap you to death. The drunkard slapped Qin Hao. Master! Stop! Xiaogua's weak voice sounded. Thump! The drunkard's heart skipped a beat. The slap stopped in front of Qin Hao, almost hitting his face. Then tears gushed out like a spring. He shook off Qin Hao and rushed to the bed. Little Melon. My good disciple, I thought I would never see Master again. It's my fault, it's all my fault. I had enough time to find you, but I blame Master for drinking. I will never drink this wine again. The drunkard's heart was broken. The gourd at his waist was thrown out. With a loud crash, the wine gourd, which was comparable to a low-grade murder weapon, made a big hole in Qin Hao's house. This made Qin Hao want to curse. You don't own the wall, right? But it could be seen that the drunkard was really good to Xiaogua. He did not hesitate to give up drinking for him. Thinking of this, Qin Hao was relieved of the drunkard's rudeness. Crazy alcoholic. I admit that you have taken in a good disciple, but my disciple is not someone who can be scolded at will. At this time, Dan Xian spoke. His expression was very bad. The drunkard's words, just now, had seriously hurt Qin Hao's self-esteem. Slap. The drunkard slapped himself hard as an apology to Qin Hao. As the sect leader of the Heavenly Fist sect, he could not kneel down and kowtow. This slap was enough to give Qin Hao face. It's my fault for looking down on you. Allow me to apologize. After the drunkard finished speaking, he looked at Xiaogua. Disciple, just say the word. As long as you say it, I will immediately kill my way to the Dan sect and twist off the old demon's head to use as a urinal. Crazy alcoholic, have you really gone mad? Dan Xian was shocked. The drunkard had always dared to say and do what he said. He did not even care about God. However, the Dan sect had Dan Ji's support and was not to be trifled with. No. Xiaogua shook his head. I want to take revenge myself. Ha ha. As expected of my disciple. The drunkard began to check Xiaogua's body. The seal condensed and stabilized again. The violent energy that attacked the meridians in his body also disappeared. However, Xiaogua's cultivation level also fell from 1-star Yuan Master to 9th layer of Yuan Gathering Tier with the disappearance of the violent elements. Even so, the drunkard was already very happy. He gave Qin Hao a thumbs up. Old man has never cared about anyone in his life, not even Chen Kang. Dan Xian is one. Today you are one too. Old man is extremely proud that little Melon has such an extraordinary big brother like you. The drunkard said this very sincerely. There was also no lack of flattery in it to Qin Hao. Qin Hao was an alchemist. Not to mention that he could refine pills above his level. Even a third-grade alchemist could not subdue the Herculean bull devil body, and was easily resolved by Qin Hao. This Qin Hao was very mysterious. With his help, Xiaogua's future path of cultivation would be much easier. This drunkard was paving the way for Xiaogua. Senior drunkard is too serious. In fact, it's all because old man Dan Xian taught me well. Qin Hao was neither servile nor overbearing. This made Dan Xian raise his head proudly. Even though Qin Hao had never called him master. Little Melon just woke up. You and Uncle De Xiong chat first. Old man, come out with me for a moment. Qin Hao glanced at Dan Xian and walked out of the room. Dan Xian was startled and hurriedly chased out, feeling that something had happened to Qin Hao. Old man, do you know Tang Mansion? After going out, Qin Hao asked directly. I know. Tang Mansion is a famous family in Heaven's Wall City and has a lot of influence in the secular world. If it was in the past, old man would really disdain it. Unfortunately, sigh. Dan Xian sighed. This Tang Mansion produced Tang Fei with the heavenly saint body. They even had a relationship with the pillar of the State General. Their power was not what it used to be. What's wrong? Did you offend them? Chapter 129. I need to see Tang Fei. No, I'm just asking. Qin Hao's expression was calm. In his heart, he confirmed the blood Kirin's words. Dan Xian breathed a sigh of relief. With Qin Hao's lowly status, it was impossible for him to have anything to do with the Tang family. There's something I have to say. The young man who took your parents away must not have any interaction with him, and you are not allowed to mention anything about your parents in the future. The faction behind a heavenly sage expert was unimaginably horrifying. It would not be overboard to destroy 10-odd great Jiang nations with a flip of their hand. Dan Xian was thinking for Qin Hao. If you dare to lick the cat's fangs and look for trouble, even the heavens won't be able to save you. Dan Xian's eyes were very strict. Qin Hao thought to himself, I'm afraid that won't do. Even if Qin Hao did not provoke Qin Yun would not let go of Qin Hao. Qin Dingtian and Tang Rong's lives were still in Qin Yun's hands. As children, how could they ignore their parents when they were in danger? What was the difference between that and a beast? This person, Qin Hao, must be saved. Moreover, he was not afraid of the so-called main family at all. However, on the surface, Qin Hao had to nod and agree. I won't provoke him. Old man, you're not from the Jiang state, are you? Qin Hao had long noticed that Dan Xian was not from the Jiang kingdom. That life-enhancing pill was a fourth-grade pill. This meant that Dan Xian had a saint-level character behind him. This made Qin Hao very curious. That's right. In the past, I was also a member of Dango. The nourishing pill is a relic left behind by Master. Dan Xian's heart was filled with hatred. A former member? Relics? These words caught Qin Hao's attention. This meant that Dan Xian was no longer Dan Ji's man. He was even chased out. That powerful mortal saint alchemist must have also fallen. This is a sad past. Since the other party didn't want to talk about it, Qin Hao didn't ask too much. When it was time to know, he would know. I've decided. I'll go back to Fengli Temple with you tomorrow. Increasing his strength was the most important thing for Qin Hao right now. Really? Pil Xian was overjoyed. This proud and arrogant kid was finally enlightened. But before that I need to make a trip to the Tang Mansion. What for? Dan Xian's heart tightened. Divorce. Divorce? You still provoke them. No, they provoked me first. After that, Qin Hao turned around and left. At the same time, Xiao Han also returned to his room. Holding the jade pendant in his hand, he sat cross-legged. Did father leave you behind to protect me? If that's the case, please share some of your power with me. I only need a little of it. She spoke to the jade pendant in her palm. In an instant the jade pendant shone brightly. As if it had a mind of its own, an abundant amount of energy flowed from Xiao Han's palm into her body and gathered in her dantian. Xiao Han's third layer of element gathering tear broke through the fourth layer of element gathering tear in an instant. Perhaps Qin Hao did not know that when he broke the jade pendant, Xiao Han also successfully broke the restriction on the jade pendant. He also found out about the secret in the jade pendant, as well as her shocking background. She was no longer the silly girl from before. She had the ability to think independently. She knew how to protect herself. That was why she did not fear the blood Kirin in the ancestral hall, and even said that Tang Fei was not worthy of Qin Hao. Tang Fei was even more precious than the princess of Jiang country. So what? In Xiao Han's eyes, not to mention the little Tang Fei, even the only princess of Western Liang, the Luo Shui Empire, was not worthy of Qin Hao. Qin Hao belonged to Xiao Han. She also had the right. However, Tang Fei had reached the seventh layer of element gathering tier. She was not someone Xiao Han could fight against at the moment. She needed to become stronger. She needed to protect Qin Hao. She needed to use her actions to prove to the Blood Kirin that he could not do it. She would use the Jade Water Sword in her hand to defend Qin Hao's dignity. After one night, 2 powerful balls of light rose from the ground of Qin Manor and flew into the distance, one to the south and one to the north. With the help of the 7-star Yuan Master of Danxian, Qin Hao was brought to Heaven's Wall City. Xiao Han, Qin Laosi, the Blood Kirin, Zhuo Maqiang, and Zhuo Junchen were also brought along. The Qin family's medicinal liquid business had entered the market of Heaven's Wall City and needed Qin Laosi to guard it. Zhuo Maqiang was in the 6th layer of element gathering tier and was also a great help. Fengli Temple was not far from Heaven's Wall City. Qin Laosi was in the city and could look after Qin Hao. As for Xiaogua and Qi Dexiong, they were brought back to Exploding Flame City by Drunkard and Log. Xiaogua had just recovered and needed to rest for a few days. Heaven's Wall City. It was the core of the southern part of Jiang country. It was densely populated and had strong soldiers. The city was extremely prosperous. It cooperated with Heaven Sea City in the north and guarded the land of Jiang country together. The most powerful force in Heaven's Wall City was undoubtedly Fengli Temple. Next were forces like the Dan sect and Tang Manor. After an hour, everyone settled down outside the city. This was also to avoid alerting the soldiers guarding the city. After all, Dan Xian's aura was too shocking. If they rushed over directly, they might be mistaken as an enemy and cause panic. Therefore, when they were 1 mile away from the city, they had already restrained the aura of a 7-star Yuan Master. Then, Dan Xian patted Qin Hao's shoulder and rushed to the east again. Fengli Temple was among the mountains in the east. Qin Hao had an agreement with him. They would first go to Tang Manor, and then go to Fengli Temple to find Dan Xian 3 days later. Dan Xian was very assured about this. Fengli Temple was so close to Heaven's Wall City. If the people of Tang Manor dared to be impudent to Qin Hao, Dan Xian would rush over in the time it took to drink water. Although Yuan Masters were still far from being able to fly and could only jump and rest, their speed was still very shocking. If they wanted to fully achieve the ability to fly, they would have to be at least at the level of a late Yuan Master. That level of Yuan Qi was extremely large and enough to support a person to fly. However, you might not believe it, but the low-level Yuan Masters in the city are treating our Qin family's 6 fine liquid as a divine medicine. The supply can't meet the demand. Qin Laosi was extremely excited. In fact, he still didn't know that Qin Hao was here to cause trouble for Tang Manor. Qin Hao said that he was here to take a look at the family business. He was the young master of Qin Manor and had the right and qualification to do so. He also wanted to see if there was a chance to meet his grandfather, whom he hadn't seen in 16 years. His grandfather had come a few times when Qin Hao was just born. Later on, he came less often. Even if he came, he wouldn't meet Qin Hao. In his eyes, he didn't recognize Qin Hao as his grandson. He was only here to see Tang Rong. Tang Rong had met with a mishap 3 years ago. His grandfather never came again. "No, we're not going to the Qin pharmacy," Qin Hao said coldly. His face was as cold as ice, and his attitude was like a completely different person. "Then where are we going?" Qin Laoxi's heart suddenly beat very fast. "We're going to Tang Manor to find Tang Fei." Qin Hao faced the 2 rows of majestic armored soldiers at the city gate and directly stepped into the most majestic city in the southern part of Jiang country. Heaven's Wall City. Find Tang Fei. Qin Laoxi was startled and panicked. "How you can't?" But at this time, Qin Hao had already disappeared. There was a crowd in front of them. Xiao Han, the Blood Kirin, and Zhuo Junchen had also disappeared. Brother Ma Qiang, quickly chase after him. Qin Laoxi's face was covered in cold sweat. "This group of lawless children, please don't let anything happen to them." Zhuo Ma Qiang was very scared. Qin Hao dared to seduce the fiancé of the Pillar of the State General's son. Chapter 130. Quit or Die. The Blood Kirin led him through the crowd. Qin Hao took a shortcut to Tang Manor's gate. The distance was getting closer and closer. Stunned, a past event appeared in his mind. At this moment, he was walking in the city. He suddenly remembered that he had saved a young girl in the explosive Flame Mountain range a few months ago. That young girl is suffering from a cold illness and will not live for long. Qin Hao and the other party had agreed to meet in Heaven's Wall City. Later, because of the annual meeting, Qin Hao forgot about it. "I wonder how that girl is doing? Was he dead or alive? We met by chance and saved her twice. I even left her a prescription to suppress her cold illness. It's up to her luck now." Since they had missed the promise, they could only forget about each other. Qin Hao and her were strangers, so he had already done his best. Thinking about it, with that girl's extraordinary family background, it shouldn't be difficult for her to keep her life. After all, Qin Hao's prescription was enough to suppress the cold. But it could only suppress the cold. Without the red lotus fire to dissolve it within 5 years, she would definitely be frozen into an ice sculpture and lose her vitality. Right now, finding Tang Fei was the main issue. As a fiancée who had been betrothed since childhood, she actually hooked up with a wild man. It was not impossible. At the very least, he should inform the Qin family and cancel the engagement. Qin Hao was not a petty person. At the very least, you can send a letter over. Tang Fei, on the other hand, quietly went to fool around with other men. Qin Hao did not want to be cuckolded. The Blood Kirin led the way, and it didn't take long for them to reach Tang Manor. The Blood Kirin was familiar with the layout of the city. Every day, she wanted to kill her stupid grandfather. Therefore, when she was about to reach the Tang residence, she stopped and said, "It's right in front. Take care of yourselves." After saying that, he disappeared into the crowd. It was inconvenient for her to show herself. Otherwise, the Tang residence would be in danger. Scared, Qin Hao looked at Xiao Han, then at Zhuo Junchen. "I've said it before. No matter what happens, I'll be by your side." Xiao Han's eyes were extremely firm. He even had the urge to give it a try. She didn't think that Qin Hao was here to curry favor with Tang Fei. She wanted to prove that she was stronger than Tang Fei. She had already secretly advanced to the 5th layer of element gathering tier. This was a secret that not even Qin Hao knew. She must give that Tang Fei a show of strength. This life should have died half a year ago. My name is Qin Chen now. Zhuo Junchen's meaning was clear. I am willing to be the shadow behind Qin Hao and never leave him. Go! Qin Hao walked toward the Tang mansion with a heroic spirit. The Tang residence was quite imposing. 2 stone lions stood at the entrance, each one 10 feet tall, majestic and domineering. This is the Tang residence. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. Before Qin Hao could enter the school, he was stopped by 6 guards who were guarding the door. These 6 guards were obviously soldiers from the army. They directly placed their hands on the sabers at their waist. This was a warning to Qin Hao. Step back and live. Step forward and die. Being a man of his word and resolute in his actions had always been the style of a soldier. Among the 6 guards, 5 were in the 8th layer of body tempering tier, and 1 was in the 9th layer of body tempering tier. Xiao Han could not help but be slightly surprised. The large clans in the city were indeed incomparable to those in the small towns. Pockmarked Wang and the others who guarded the Qin family's ancestral hall were only in the 8th layer of body tempering tier. The 8th layer of body tempering tier here was only fit to guard the door. Actually, the guards were not soldiers in the first place. They were deliberately arranged by the pillar of the state General Wang Ba to make the Tang residence proud. In fact, the Tang residence was proud of them. How dare you? Zhuo Junchen stepped forward. How could he allow a mere soldier to behave so atrociously in front of Qin Hao? Qin Hao waved his hand and dismissed Zhuo Junchen. He said calmly, "I want to see Tang Fei." His tone was very calm. As the former Dendi, it was normal for him to come and see a commoner. However, the 6 soldiers were stunned. Then, they laughed maniacally. "Say it again. Who do you want to see?" "I want to see Tang Fei," Qin Hao repeated. "Ha ha. Ridiculous. Princess Zhaoyang is not someone a lowly commoner like you can see. Leave now. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy." Swoosh, swoosh. As they spoke, the 6 guards unsheathed their swords. Qin Hao was stunned. Princess Zhaoyang? When did Tang Fei become a princess? Traitor! Half a month ago, His Majesty was forced by Wang Ba to confer the title of Princess Zhaoyang to Tang Fei. His purpose was to match her status as Wang Gui. At this moment, the Blood Kirin's voice rang in Qin Hao's ears. Qin Hao turned his head and looked across half the street. He saw the Blood Kirin in the dark. She did not leave. She did not abandon Qin Hao. Qin Hao was touched. The Blood Kirin was a wanted criminal of the Tang residence and was risking her life. Let's see who dares to stop him even if he wants to see a princess, let alone a princess. Xiao Han released the aura of a 5th layer of element gathering tier. The 6 guards' expressions changed. Qin Hao was also shocked. Zhuo Junchen almost screamed. "Miss, we are just following orders. Please do not make things difficult for us. The Tang residence is a famous family of the pillar of the state. There are many experts in the residence. Please do not make things difficult for yourself." The 2 guards spoke one after another. Their tone was much more amiable. The strong should be respected. Moreover, Xiao Han was a great beauty. Women were easier to talk to than men. The guards even kindly reminded her that there were experts in the Tang residence, so she should not be stupid. As for Qin Hao at the side, he had long been tossed beyond the 9 heavens. Don't be rude. Captain Xing, nice to meet you." Qin Laosi finally arrived. He took the initiative to greet the guard in the 9th layer of body tempering tier. "You are the 4th master of the Qin family's pharmacy. What brings you here?" The guard in the 9th layer of body tempering tier immediately sheathed his saber. He seemed to be on good terms with Qin Laosi. "To tell you the truth, this is my nephew. The purpose of today's visit. It's a long story. Anyway, we hope to meet Princess Zhaoyang." Qin Laosi showed a bitter face. Since he was already here, he could only go along with Qin Hao's wishes. In fact, which parent did not love their child? In Qin Laosi's eyes, Qin Hao was his own son. Even if he lost his life, he had to grit his teeth and endure. The soldier named Captain Xing showed a troubled expression. He was of low status. Even if he said yes, it was useless if the big shots inside did not agree. How about this, fourth master? Let me go to the residents to inform them? Captain Xing could see that Qin Laosi was quite anxious. The Qin family's Lulianjai was very famous in the city. It was quite popular among the soldiers. Many people had advanced a level because of it. For the soldiers, this undoubtedly increased their chances of survival on the battlefield. All right. Qin Laosi nodded. He looked helplessly at Qin Hao. Sorry to trouble you, Captain Xing. Qin Hao cupped his hands and said, It's so troublesome to meet *tch. Boy, remember next time, don't call Princess Zhaoyang's name directly. You will be beheaded and your family will be exterminated. Since you are fourth master's nephew, I kindly remind you. Fourth master, please wait for a moment. I will be back soon. Chapter 131. A wicked slave runs wild. After Captain Xing left, Qin Hao looked at Xiao Han. When did you break through to the 5th tier of element gathering tier? Last night, Elder Dan Xian's Qi gathering pill. Xiao Han's hand unconsciously went to the jade pendant around his neck. His gaze turned to the side as if he wanted to avoid something. Qin Hao nodded. Dan Xian had given Xiao Han 2 gifts. A bottle of strength-gathering pills. The energy-gathering pill allowed Xiao Han to break through body-tempering stage 9. There was also a bottle of qi-gathering pills. With Xiao Han's aptitude, if he took a qi-gathering pill, he could indeed advance from the 3rd layer of element-gathering tier to the 5th layer of element-gathering tier. However, Qin Hao felt that there was something strange about Xiao Han. In the past, Xiao Han's eyes were clear and transparent, like a pool of clear water. Qin Hao could see through his thoughts at a glance. Now Qin Hao was a little confused. This was also the first time he felt a sense of unfamiliarity. He shook his head. People were changing, and even he was changing, let alone Xiao Han. Captain Xing left for a long time and didn't come back, saying, I'll be back soon. This wait made Qin Hao wait in front of the gate for 4 hours. The new year had just passed. Snow was falling, and the cold wind was bone-chilling. If it weren't for the fact that Qin Hao and the others were strong, they would have suffered a lot. Qin Hao took off his white cloak and draped it over Xiao Han. Even though Xiao Han was also wearing a cloak. This is too rude. Captain Xing is really unreliable. Zhuo Junchen couldn't bear to watch any longer. How dare you? The 5 armored soldiers angrily rebuked. Their captain was a man of his word. He was definitely not someone who would go back on his word. However, the 5 of them were also very puzzled. The captain seemed to have been gone for too long. At this moment, a lackey who looked like a butler walked out with a lewd laugh. Behind him was Captain Xing. Judging from the situation, Captain Xing was stopped by someone, and that person deliberately delayed for more than 4 hours to deliberately make things difficult for Qin Hao. Isn't this the former 4th master of the Qin family, Qin Hantian? You're still the same as before. I haven't seen you for many years, but your strength hasn't improved at all. Look at me, even a mere housekeeper of mine is already in the 8th layer of element gathering tier, ahahaha. As soon as this steward appeared, his words were full of mockery towards Qin Laosi. A country bumpkin is still a country bumpkin. You can't even compare to a slave like me. The lackey felt very proud. Zogo? Qin Laosi's eyes turned cold. This person was the personal butler of the 7th elder, who was now the 2nd elder. Captain Xing was intercepted by him. I say, Qin Hantian, you country bumpkin, do you have nothing better to do? What are you doing in the city? You even came to the high and mighty Tang mansion. Is this a place you should come to? Hurry up and get lost. Zogo waved his hand repeatedly, as if he was dismissing a beggar. Zogo, however, only wants to see Xiaofei. There are some things that need to be discussed face to face. Back then, Zogo had personally experienced Tang Rong being chased out of the clan. Qin Laosi directly stated Qin Hao's request. Xiaofei? Who are you calling Xiaofei? Is Princess Zhaoyang, who was conferred the title by the emperor, someone a lowly commoner like you can call by her nickname? The lackey was extremely dissatisfied, but suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. Could he be Qin Dingtian's bastard? He sized up everyone with his gaze, trying to find Qin Hao. Back then, Qin Dingtian had slapped Zhou, and he felt that the opportunity for revenge had come. You. I'm talking to you. The lackey pointed in Qin Hao's direction and walked straight up. However, he walked past Qin Hao and arrived in front of Zhuo Junshan. You must be the bastard of that damned Qin Hao, the pitiful little worm, right? And your appearance is a bit ugly and your temperament is mediocre. At first glance, you look like a human. If I continue looking, it's not even as good as the first glance. He directly lectured Zhuo Junshan, his words sharp and vicious. Zhuo Junshan was momentarily stunned. Was there something wrong with Zhou eyes? He actually recognized the wrong person. In fact, Zhou couldn't be blamed. Qin Hao had draped the white cloak over Xiao Han, and his clothes were very thin. Thus, Zhou had mistaken him for a servant of the Qin family. On the other hand, Zhuo Junshan was dressed rather well. Zhuo Junshan had been pampered since he was young and was regarded as a genius by the Zhuo family. Naturally, he would have some arrogance. And this must be Qin Hao's bastard. I say, Qin Hao, why don't you take a piss and look at your face? A country bumpkin actually wants to meet the princess. I really feel embarrassed for that damned father of yours. Speaking of which, your father's death was truly wonderful. If not, where will he put his face today? Ha ha! Zhou pointed at Zhuo Junshan's nose and scolded him. Lord Zhou, please conduct yourself with dignity. This is my son. This is the real young master Qin Hao. Zhuo Maqiang said coldly as he pointed at the thinly dressed Qin Hao. His own son was being bullied by a lackey for no reason. Moreover, he was scolding him in front of Zhuo Maqiang. He even cursed Zhuo Maqiang to die. But Zhuo Maqiang felt that it was worth it. As long as Qin Hao didn't get bullied, it was fine. At this moment, he couldn't help but want to slap Zhou. I also have times when I make mistakes. Zhou felt deeply humiliated. He had lost the judgment that a housekeeper should have. This was all Qin Hao's fault. You little bastard, I originally thought that you would be decent, but in the end, you're dressed like a lowly servant. You're so shabby. You don't have any temperament or poise. You have a donkey's face and a rotten life. You're not worthy of meeting Princess Zhaoyang. I'll give you a slap on behalf of your short-lived father. How dare you? Impudent! Without waiting for Zhou to raise his hand, Zhuo Junshan and Zhuo Maqiang shouted angrily. However, there was someone who moved even faster. Shua! A sword light as clear as water suddenly flashed. Like a rainbow soaring through the sky, it slashed across Zhou's face. Its speed was inconceivably fast. Immediately, blood splattered on Zhou's face. This strike was too sudden. Zhou's face turned pale as he stood rooted to the ground. You're full of shit. The next strike will cut off your tongue. Xiao Han coldly returned the jade water sword to its scabbard. You actually injured me? Zhou couldn't believe it. He stupidly opened his mouth. He turned around bit by bit. His gaze fell on Xiao Han. Then, with bloodshot eyes, Zhou roared like a wild donkey. You bastard, actually dared to injure me? Die. As the housekeeper of Red Mountain Courtyard in Tang Manor, Zhou had a noble status. He was second only to one person and above all, no servants or maids dared to disobey him. Even the house would tremble if he shook his leg. Even the other elders had to show him some respect. Zhou himself was in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. His face was slashed by a sword in front of so many commoners in front of his own home. And his opponent was a little girl from the trashy Qin family. This was an absolute humiliation. His power of the 8th layer of element gathering tier erupted. If Zhou Go did not kill Xiao Han, he would not be able to vent his anger. Stop. Children don't know the rules. Qin Laosi was shocked. He immediately stepped forward to stop them. Zhuo Maqiang also stepped forward. This Zhou Go was in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Qin Laosi was definitely not his match. The moment the Qin family moved, the armored guards in front of the door also moved. The scene was chaotic, attracting countless passers-by to watch. Someone actually dared to behave atrociously in Tang manner. This was the manner of Princess Zhaoyang, conferred by His Majesty. It was the in-law of the pillar of the state great general. Chapter 132. I am the Saint King, back off. Zhuo Junchen roared, releasing the aura of the 1st layer of element gathering tier, intimidating the 5 charging soldiers. Seeing this, Captain Xing drew his saber. But before he could fully draw his saber, a curved saber was already on his neck. Captain Xing immediately stiffened, not daring to move. A row of cold sweat slid down his cheeks. The onlookers exclaimed. This group of daring fanatics had subdued the guards of the pillar of the State General. It seemed that they had some skills, but in an instant they shook their heads, because Zhou Go had attacked. This Zhou Go was truly in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Qin Laosi and Zhuo Maqiang were no match for him. His palms were wrapped in thick origin qi. With 2 pung-pung sounds, he hit Qin Laosi and Zhuo Maqiang in the chest, causing them to vomit blood. The people of the Qin family's pharmacy overestimated themselves. How dare they behave atrociously in the Tang manner? They provoked Zhou Go, who they shouldn't have provoked. Everyone knew of Zhou Go's evil reputation. In the Tang manner, he would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. He was truly a villain. The people of the Qin family's pharmacy probably wouldn't survive. Ha ha ha! Zhou Go laughed wildly. Trash is trash. You can't even take a hit from me. Back then, my master bestowed Qin Shilong with a mouthful of saliva. Today, I'll also reward you, Qin Laosi, with a mouthful of golden liquid. Bah! He sneezed, and yellow phlegm flew into his mouth, flying towards Qin Laosi's head. But this phlegm didn't land on Qin Laosi's head as expected. Instead, it was swept back into Zhou Go's throat by a gust of wind. This scene was extremely strange. Zhou Go felt extremely disgusted. He bent over and vomited non-stop. His face was green. Who plotted against me? He roared, wanting to find the culprit. At this moment, a pressure suddenly came from above his head. This pressure was very weak at first, but it made Zhou Go, who was in the 8th layer of element gathering tier, feel extremely fearful. He raised his head to look. He saw a brick the size of a palm fall. As it got closer, the brick became bigger. By the time it landed on Zhou Go's face, it had already turned into a solid rock the size of a water tank. The pressure from the boulder made Zhou Go lose his balance and fall to the ground. This item was the low-grade weapon that Qin Hao had snatched from the old demon of the Black Mountain, the flipping person seal. Moreover, it was an illusory weapon. My lord, please spare my lowly life. Zhou Go was from the Tang residence, so he had quite a good eye. The thing on top of his head was definitely not an ordinary item. If he was hit, he would definitely turn into a bloody mess. He was so scared that his face turned pale and he begged for mercy. This scene also shocked all the people present. So you're also afraid of death? A cold laugh rang out. Qin Hao flicked his finger, and the wind around Zhou Go dissipated. It's you. Zhou Go was stunned at first, then he was furious. The person who stuffed his saliva back into his mouth. Was that little bastard Qin Hao? Yes. It's me. Qin Hao's right hand pressed down through the air. Buzz. The flipping person seal above Zhou Go's head, like a towering mountain, fell down a bit and stuck in front of Zogo's eyes. I was wrong, I was wrong. Young Master Qin Hao, please spare my lowly life. Zogo was pressed to the ground, and his head was squeezed between the stone slab and the flipping person seal. As long as Qin Hao waved his hand casually, he would immediately be squeezed into a bloody mess. At this moment, Zogo's heart was shocked. His soul was shaken. His body was numb. His face looked as if he had swallowed feces, which was uncomfortable. Qin Hao, who he regarded as a country bumpkin, could decide his life and death with a snap of his fingers. Tang Fei. Where is she? Qin Hao walked over coldly. Zogo swallowed his saliva and felt the pressure from above his head. He had to say it even if he didn't want to. The princess is not in the Tang residence, but in the residence of the Boiling Pot General in Monarch City. You lied to me? Qin Hao's eyes turned cold, and his palms suddenly shook. Creak. The flipping person seal squeezed Zogo's head into the stone slab. The stone slab cracked, and even the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Everything I said is true. The princess is really in the great general's residence waiting on the young master Wang Gui. The two of them are most likely already in bed, having sex. Zogo's palms hit the ground frantically. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was so frightened that he screamed. It was fine if he didn't say anything. The moment he opened his mouth, the entire city would be shaken. Tang Fei had sex with Wang Gui. She came from a prestigious family, and was even bestowed the title of Princess Zhaoyang by the current emperor. However, she didn't keep her chastity and lost her virginity. This was a huge scandal. This was supposed to be the Tang residence's secret. Zogo was the second elder's trusted aide, and he accidentally heard this secret. When he screamed, the entire street saw how unbearable Tang Fei was. F***ck. This is simply a strange story. Princess Zhaoyang is a fickle woman, as cheap as a brothel whore. If I were her father, I would kill myself immediately. Shameless and a disgrace to the family. She's even worse than the daughters of our common families. This barrage of curses made even the armored soldiers feel ashamed. Tang Fei instantly became as famous as a prostitute in a brothel from the high and mighty Princess Zhaoyang. Her behavior was even worse than the incident between Qin Dingtian and Tang Rong. Tang Fei was the bestowed Princess Zhaoyang by the emperor. This scandal quickly spread in front of the Tang residence, and it became a hot topic in the city overnight. Hey brother, did you know? The Tang residence's patriarch's daughter was. Hey buddy, Princess Zhaoyang traveled thousands of miles to send, did you hear? The Tang residence's patriarch's daughter is unable to endure the thirst. The aristocratic circle is really messy. That slut, when will she be back? Qin Hao was so angry that his veins were popping out. Tang Fei was so shameless. She traveled thousands of miles to the monarch city, and it was during the new year. At most 1 month. Young Master Qin Hao is merciful, and spared my worthless life. At this point, Zogo couldn't be bothered to care about Princess Zhaoyang. He only wanted to live. Spare your life? Fine. Qin Hao lifted Zogo's collar and gave him a slap. Pa. I'm doing this for my brother Qin Chen. Pa. This is for my fourth uncle and Uncle Mo Chang. Pa. This is for disrespecting my father, Qin Dingtian. Pa. This slap is for humiliating me too much. Qin Hao kept on slapping Zogo, causing him to sway left and right. Zogo's 2 rows of teeth were all knocked out. His technique was exactly the same as when the drunkard slapped the tall and skinny elder. In the blink of an eye, Zogo's head was already swollen. His heart was filled with hatred, and he wanted to commit suicide. Back then, Qin Dingtian didn't hit him so hard. However, Qin Hao gave him over 100 slaps across his face. In front of the public, at the entrance of the Tang residence. He wouldn't have the face to meet anyone in the future, let alone establish himself in the Red Mountain courtyard. You come here. Qin Hao threw away Zogo, whose face was swollen like a bun, and pointed at Captain Xing, who was scared silly. Yes, young master. What orders do you have? Captain Xing knelt and trembled. At this moment, he didn't dare to show any disrespect, let alone contempt. Send this to the Tang residence's patriarch. Tell him, the son of the former Qin Dingtian, the current saint king of the Fengli Temple, is ashamed of the Tang residence. Qin Hao's spatial ring lit up, and he threw the marriage contract on Captain Xing's face. Boom! Captain Xing's mind shook. Spatial artifact? And it was of such a high level. It was 1,000 times better than the little turtle prince's Sumeru pouch. But what did Qin Hao just say? He was the saint king of the Fengli Temple? The little turtle prince was only respected as the saint by the Guihai sect. Qin Hao was respected as the saint king by the Fengli Temple. I will go right away. Chapter 133. Shame on the Tang Mansion. Qin Hao stored the flipping person seal back into his spatial ring. Since Tang Fei was not in the manor, there was no need to see her. He turned around and was about to leave. Zogo's eyes were filled with malice. Qin Hao walked up to him and lifted him up again, pressing his face against Qin Hao's. Look at me clearly. You can look down on me, and you can look down on all those who have no power or influence. But I want to tell you, a dog will always be a dog, and will never be able to become a master. After he finished speaking, a loud smack was heard. A slap landed on Zogo's face. This slap contained a dense amount of essence qi, causing Zogo to howl in pain. Well done! This is so king satisfying. Serves Zogo right. He will die a horrible death sooner or later. Sob sob. Daughter, a kind-hearted young master has avenged you. Cheers could be heard from the crowd. There was even an old man who was weeping towards the heavens. His youngest daughter was a maidservant of the Tang mansion. She had accidentally broken a cup in the Red Mountain courtyard and had been beaten to death by Zogo's vicious servants. His methods were so cruel that it made one's hair stand on end. Now, Qin Hao had resolved the hatred in the hearts of all the people in the city who had suffered injustice. Zogo couldn't bear the humiliation at this moment. He knew that he wasn't a match for Qin Hao. The seal in Qin Hao's hand was too fierce. However, after being scolded by so many commoners who looked down on him, he felt like dying. Qin Hao, you and I are absolutely irreconcilable. Qin Hao suddenly stopped in his tracks. Another person who could not live under the same sky. In the past, those who were absolutely irreconcilable with me, none of them had a good ending. Hopefully, Zogo's luck would be better and he wouldn't be killed by a single palm strike. With a pout, Qin Hao turned around and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Spit! This mouthful of saliva, which was mixed with yuan qi, flew over 10 meters away and hit Zogo's head like a bullet. Duong! A cluster of sparks exploded. Zogo fainted from the impact of the spit. He was utterly humiliated. This spit is for my grandfather. Ah! Qin Hao was extremely happy. He clasped his hands behind his back and took a step forward. Everywhere he passed, the commoners would step aside, their eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. Even though this young man's clothes were thin, his figure was incomparably tall. With his hands behind his back, he looked proud and arrogant. In short, there was only one word: that's awesome. A young man in the crowd said excitedly, and gave Qin Hao a thumbs up. Yeah, this person's arrogance is unparalleled, and his reputation is so great that we can only look up to him. Tsk, the holy king of Fengli Temple. Another young man with small eyes said. His words were filled with admiration for Qin Hao. Sage ruler? How come I didn't know that our sect had a saint king? The young man from before was stunned. That's right, I've never heard of him before. This brat is swindling people, using the name of our Fengli temple to scare people. Aya, he's too despicable. I'll fight it out with him. Are you crazy? The young man with small eyes grabbed his companion. Qin Hao was powerful. From the power of his spit, he could tell that he was at least in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Moreover, he held a weapon in his hand. Going up to fight him was no different from seeking death. Then what do we do? One of them said unwillingly. Go back and report to the elders. Let the elders tell the sect leader that someone is ruining the reputation of Fengli Temple. Kill this bastard to vent our anger. Let's go. The 2 inner sect disciples immediately disappeared into the crowd. In the distance, on the roof of an extremely tall building in Tang Manor, a middle-aged man saw everything and couldn't help but smile coldly. Then, he slowly went downstairs and walked towards a secret room. The courtyard he was in was called Green Mountain Courtyard. Green Mountain Courtyard was the courtyard of the Great Elder. It was at odds with the second Elder's Red Mountain Courtyard. Father. The middle-aged man came to the secret room and bowed to an old man in white robes. The old man in white robes was sitting on the bed with his eyes narrowed. His whole body emitted a thick green light. This was a Yuan Shi level figure. Furthermore, he was able to restrain his aura with ease. He was like a dragon bell. It was obvious that he was an extremely powerful Yuan Shi. That child from back then, he still came? The old man said indifferently. With his hearing ability, he had already heard everything that was happening outside clearly. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded. Qin Hao really overestimated himself and dared to barge into Tang Manor. However, that slap on Zhouguo's face was quite satisfying. In any case, Xiaorong's blood flows in his veins. As expected of my grandson, the old man's solemn face revealed a rare smile. This surprised the middle-aged man. His father hadn't smiled for 16 years. How is it? Does he look like your sister? The old man asked. The middle-aged man nodded and then shook his head. Yes, but he looks more like Qin Dingtian. Aya, this is infuriating, old man. The old man slammed the table and stood up. He was suddenly enraged and opened his eyes in an instant. That gaze was like the edge of a sword. No one dared to look at it directly. Father, please calm down. The middle-aged man said in fear. Forget it. For Xiaorong's sake, arrange for people to keep an eye on Red Mountain Courtyard. Be sure to protect that child. The old man ordered. Yes. The middle-aged man didn't dare to neglect and turned to leave the room. At the same time, Captain Xing took the marriage contract and went straight to the Tang Manor's patriarch's courtyard. Get out of my way. He glared like an injured tiger rampaging. The maids and servants were so scared that they all avoided him. However, in front of the door of a study, he was stopped by 2 golden-clothed men. Little soldier, how dare you break into the patriarch's study? Get lost. While they were talking, a man's body trembled with green light. He casually used his vitality to flip Captain Xing to the ground, causing him to vomit blood. Damn you! You provoked a strong enemy for my general and offended the holy king of Fengli Temple. Good, very good. Just wait and see. Captain Xing also threw caution to the wind. He grabbed the marriage contract and smashed it in the man's face, shouting loudly, Tang Xian. Someone sent a message. The son of Qin Dingtian, now the holy king of Fengli Temple, is ashamed of the Tang Manor. After roaring, he strode away. He left the Tang Manor completely and prepared to return to the imperial city. Because the Tang Manor was too smelly. Aunt! The man whose face was hit by the marriage contract trembled. He was about to kill Captain Xing from behind. Wait! At this moment, a voice sounded from the study. Then, the door opened and a white-faced middle-aged man walked out. This person was the current patriarch of the Tang Manor. He was also the one who once admired Tang Rong. Tang Xian. What happened? Tang Xian asked. Because his study was soundproof, he didn't hear the noise outside the manor. Clan head Xing Guiqiang barged in just now, so I made a move to punish him. Who knew that this person would spout nonsense and publicly insult the clan head? He even howled about how he was Qin Dingtian's son and the current Saint King of the Phoenix Glass Palace. The man replied, "What did you say?" Tang Xian's tiger body trembled violently. "Oh right, Xing Guiqiang also left this." The man handed over the marriage contract. After Tang Xian saw it, his pupils dilated. This was the marriage contract he left for Tang Rong back then. He hurriedly opened it to take a look. As a result, he felt a sweetness in his throat at first glance, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. There was a big word written on this marriage contract. Rest. Did he leave any words just now? Tang Xian asked again. He said, "The Tang Manor is ashamed." Chapter 134. Show me the way. After Qin Hao beat up Zhou Go, he prepared to go to the Qin family's drugstore to take a look. Tang Fei and Wang Gui were still having fun and would only be back in about a month. At that time, Qin Hao would have to make another trip to the Tang residence and divorce this slut on the spot. Not bad, the holy king of Fengli Temple. The blood Kiran's little hand slapped Qin Hao's shoulder. She was watching from the dark and felt great. When she had tried to assassinate the second elder, Zhou Go had interfered many times. He had even put the blood Kiran in danger a few times. Half a year ago, Zhou Go sent people to chase the blood Kiran all the way to Akita town. If it wasn't for Qin Hao's help, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Qin Hao felt rather embarrassed by the words, Sage King. In fact, if he hadn't used this false reputation to intimidate Captain Xing, the other party might not have dared to bring the marriage contract to Tang Xian at all costs. All of this was just Qin Hao's little tricks, but he also knew that he might anger the Fengli Temple. As long as there was a Dan Xian, it was fine. Where are you going? Qin Laosi followed behind Qin Hao. He was confused. Qin Hao had already walked 3 streets with his hands behind his back. Oh, let's go to our pharmacy. Our medicine shop is over there. Qin Laosi was speechless as he pointed at the living area in the city. Qin Hao felt extremely awkward. This was his first time in the Heaven's Wall City, and he didn't know where the medicine shop was. They walked in the direction that Qin Laosi pointed. Not long after, Qin Hao arrived at the living area. Immediately, an eye-catching signboard came into view. Qin Family's Pharmacy. The location of the medicine store was particularly good, and the facade was large enough. It could be seen that Qin Laosi was a good helmsman. At this moment, below the 3-story wooden building of the medicine store, low-level elementalists had gathered in front of the door. They were all body tempering stage 3 to stage 5. There was a sea of people, and it was extremely crowded. Qin Hao couldn't help but be startled. It seemed that Luoyang Liquid's business was better than he had imagined. But then, he didn't think so. The signboard of the Qin family's pharmacy suddenly exploded right in front of Qin Hao's eyes, and a figure flew out from the crowd. This figure was flying really high. Qin Hao recognized this figure. It was Qin Shilong's trusted aide, Qin Liao. During the annual meeting, Lu Yu and Qin Laosi returned to the clan. Therefore, he sent Qin Liao to temporarily take care of the business. But today, Qin Liao was sent flying so high. Qin Hao instantly understood that the guy at the door wasn't here to buy medicine. He was here to cause trouble. Bang! Qin Liao fell heavily to the ground. Before he could stand up, a large foot stepped on his face. Ha ha! You trash of the 7th stage body tempering realm dare to challenge me, Songshur? You must be tired of living. Obediently hand over 100,000 taels of silver today, and I'll let your Qin family's pharmacy go. If you don't, Creak. Song Shi's foot stepped on Qin Liao's face, causing him to grimace in pain. Master Song, we really don't have that much money. I hope you can put in a few good words for us in front of Master Hai and give us some time. Qin Liao said anxiously. 100,000 taels wasn't a small amount. You don't have that much money? The Qin family's business is so good. You dare say you don't have that much money? Song Shi was furious. He kicked Qin Liao, wanting to cripple him. Bang! When the kick landed, Song Shi was the first to fly out, and he flew much higher than Qin Liao. He was like a star rising in the sky. Damn! Master Song is flying really high. Could it be that he's using some powerful technique? Master Song is at the peak of the third stage of element gathering realm. He's really amazing. Yeah, he's flying really high. The crowd below kept praising and flattering him. But then, they felt that something was wrong. Song Shi was flying too high, and they couldn't see his shadow. Just as the crowd was puzzled, a scream rang out. Catch me, King catch me. Song Shi turned into a ball of flesh and fell down. Even with his power of the third stage of element gathering realm, he couldn't resist the origin chi that lifted him up. This was really too terrifying. But Song Shi didn't have an undeserved reputation. In the face of danger, he curled his body into a ball and put his head between his pants to protect his vital parts. Quick, catch Master Song. Master Song must have gone mad. The crowd was extremely anxious and raised their arms high. However, the moment Song Shi smashed down, the crowd suddenly scattered in all directions. Song Shi's speed was too shocking. If he was hit, he would definitely die. You bunch of untrustworthy scum. Boom! Song Shi's head hit the ground, creating a deep hole. Even though he protected his vital parts, his head was still buzzing from the impact. He was extremely angry. Someone dared to sneak attack him. Before he could get up, a foot stepped on his face, just like how he stepped on Qin Liao. You call this delivering shit? Death? Or a corpse? Qin Hao said expressionlessly. As he spoke, he exerted force with his foot. Creak. The flesh on Song Shi's face was squeezed out. Sir, please spare my life. This lowly one is Song Shi. Lion means majestic and domineering. Song Shi begged for mercy in fear. From the strength of the foot on his face, Qin Hao was much stronger than him. Young master? Woo. Young master. Qin Liao was moved to tears and immediately got up. If Qin Hao had come a little later, Qin Liao would have been crippled. You're from the Qin family? Song Shi was stunned. Then he saw Qin Laosi in the crowd. Then, the young man who stepped on his head must also be from the Qin family. Good. You little bastard, not only did you not pay the rent,